Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to confirm our required quorum of 150 registered voters is present, with at least 364 in the House as of about 3 minutes ago. We will waive the reading of the warrant and the constable's return. For the record, the Abington Select Board has called this annual town meeting and issued their warrant. The warrants have been posted. The notice has been delivered by the town per the town bylaws. And I will note the time of this town meeting is going to be called to order at 7:10 p.m. Before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin the formalities of tonight's meeting, I wanted to note that moderators in town meetings across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts are taking a moment to note the significance of our 2026 annual town meetings, all of which are being held 250 years since our forefathers formally declared their independence from tyranny and then established a new government for a new country to be called the United States of America. Town meetings have been held here in Abington since the year 1713. Historians have described an open town meeting as one of the purest examples of democracy, where resident voters are welcome to gather together as a legislative body to exchange ideas and different points of view, to approve town bylaws and budgets, and to vote with their heart and conscience in the best interests of their family and their town. Here in Abington, residents held a town meeting on March 19, 1770, just 2 weeks after the Boston Massacre, and voted to endorse and publish a proclamation in the Boston Gazette called the Noble Resolves, which are authored by Abington resident Joseph Greenleaf. The Noble Resolves call for the citizens to join together to object to tyranny, to boycott goods sold by the monarchy, and to publicly support the protection of our civil liberties. Citizens throughout the American colonies held meetings, published letters, held rallies, and volunteered to fight against the monarchy and to establish our independence. The Noble Resolves published by Abington's town meeting was believed by many to have helped inspire the wording of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. On this 250th anniversary of the creation of our country, we remember those generations of Abington residents who have come before us and contributed individually and as a committed community to fight for, establish, and protect our civil liberties. We especially honor those Abington veterans who sacrificed their lives during the Revolutionary War in our fight to resist the king and to establish our American democracy, whose names now appear on the projection screen. These men and their families fought for our right to peacefully assemble here tonight and to act as free citizens according to the dictates of our conscience and in our best interests of our town and our country. The voices raised, the actions taken, the financial support committed, and the lives and liberties pledged at the many town meetings held throughout our Commonwealth during the last 250 years remain our worthy heritage. Our perfect union has been challenged throughout the years, but its inspired citizenry has triumphed and persevered for a quarter of a millennium to protect those freedoms which make America what it is and what it hopes to be. Let us give thanks to the citizens who attended our town meetings and voted to create a new nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. May our actions here tonight pay tribute to their lives and further strengthen and secure the rights of today's citizens to enjoy the liberties which our town meetings seek to preserve. So let us join together to recommit in this year 2026 to accept the continuing responsibilities to keep ourselves well informed, to exercise our right of assembly, and to protect our democracy in the years to come. And what better way to renew our commitment than to begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America. I ask that you please rise. I'd like to invite Abington resident and United States Marine Corps veteran Travis Partington to have the honor of leading our Pledge of Allegiance. Travis is a member of the Abington's Veterans Advisory Council. He is the host of the Abington Veterans Muster Show on local cable TV, and he is a longtime supporter and advocate for our veterans and the services they deserve. Please remain standing after the Pledge of Allegiance. Travis.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing as we now introduce and invite the Abington High School Band, who will play our national anthem. Please remain standing. I'd like to introduce the Chair of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Paul Bunker, who will lead us in a moment of silence in tribute to those town employees and government volunteers who passed away during last year. Mr. Bunker.
Robert Brett, Marie Brown, Sheila Burke, Virginia Ginny Burns, James Counter, Wallace Hap Howe, Elizabeth Betty Keefe, Louise McKenzie, Richard Merrill, George Roberts, Marion Tisdale, Sandra White, and Betty Ann McDonald. Thank you.
Thank you, and please be seated. On behalf of the town of Abington, it is my honor to share with you that the 2025 annual report is dedicated to Deborah Grimmett. And we ask Deb to please step forward so that our town manager can present her with a copy of the annual report. Deb Grimmett is celebrating her 40th year as an employee of our public library, but truthfully, Deb, it is the residents of Abington and the users of our library who are celebrating your career. Thank you, Deb, and congratulations. Welcome to this town meeting of May 4th, 2026. My name is Sean Riley, and I am the town moderator. Whether this is your first time attending town meeting or if you're a regular attendee, we welcome all of you and thank you for your participation. I want to welcome especially Representative Allison Sullivan Almeida and State Senator John Keenan, who are joining us tonight. We'll be using some of the available technology that is built into this auditorium, and we shall try to display each article as we address them. However, please note that the printed warrant is the official warrant and contains the articles. So if there are any discrepancies between the content in your warrant and that which appears on the screen, the language in the warrant or in the stated motions will control unless otherwise noted. Please allow me to introduce our town clerk, Leanne Adams, who is seated here to my right, and our town council, Amy Quessel from KP Law, seated just below me on the floor. Seated to the left of me are the Abington Finance Committee. The Finance Committee is comprised of Abington residents who volunteer to review and analyze each article which is to be voted on town meeting floor. The current members of the Finance Committee are Greg Belzerian, Floyd Bartram, Abigail Gendro, Emily Grozewski, Chris Murphy, and Barbara Ray, together with the chairman of the Finance Committee, or the FinCom, Matt Sala, who will be speaking to you throughout this evening to offer motions on most of tonight's warrant articles. I'd also like to welcome our town manager, Mr. Michael Moresco, who was hired by the town just about 4 months ago. Talk about baptism by fire. Mr. Moresco and our town department heads have worked very hard to prepare for this town meeting, and Mr. Moresco later will take part in the presentation of some of the articles and answer any relevant questions. We have a couple of basic rules of the meeting. We ask you abide by these following rules and guidelines during town meeting in order to allow you the opportunity to ask questions, share your opinion, or to simply listen to the debate. Please approach one of the microphones in the aisle if you'd like to speak or if you have a question, and the moderator will recognize you at the earliest available moment. Please remember to state your name and address before you begin to speak, because our town clerk will need to properly record the minutes of the meeting. Please make sure to keep all comments and questions relevant to the subject matter of the article being presented, and do not make any personal remarks or bring personalities into the debating of an issue. If the moderator believes that a speaker is straying from the issues, I will have to direct that speaker to limit the debate to the issue on the table. We also ask that all speakers limit their time at the microphone so that others will have an opportunity to speak and be heard. I understand that many of you may have children at home or other people in your life who may need to contact you at some point during the meeting. We ask that you please silence your cell phones at this time, and if you must, please take any phone conversations out to the lobby in consideration for those who may be sitting around you. In the case of an emergency arises and we need to evacuate the building, Please note the various emergency exits which are available to you. There are exits located in the left and the right of the auditorium, the up top of the auditorium, and directly to the left and right of the stage should the need arise. I've already appointed tellers who help us count at the time of any standing votes, and they are aware of their assigned sections. I need to appoint a deputy moderator for this coming year, and I therefore ask that you vote to approve the appointment of Mr. Richard Testa as our deputy moderator. Throughout this evening, I remind you that I will ask those who want to vote in favor of a motion to signify by saying aye, and I will then ask for those who are opposed to a motion to signify by saying no. So let's use this first vote as an example on behalf of Mr. Testa. All those in favor of appointing Richard Testa as our deputy moderator, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Thank you. It's unanimous, Rich. Please understand that in order to debate and discuss an item on today's town meeting, the subject matter must be listed in the warrant in the form of an article. Tonight, the Finance Committee and others will be presenting their motions to either approve an article as it was originally printed, or to propose new wording with updated information, or to oppose an article, which we call passing over an article. If you have any questions about procedure or how to do something, please feel free to ask me. We will do our best to make sure that we all understand what we're voting for before I actually ask you to declare your votes. Before we begin with our review of the articles in the warrant, the moderator would like to recognize Town Manager Michael Moresco for the purpose of providing you with a summary and general review of our town government and some of the issues that we may be addressing this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome to the floor, for the first time, our Town Manager Michael Moresco.
Thank you, everyone, and good evening. And thank you, Mr. Moderator. I stand before you this evening for the first time as your town manager. As a town, we are faced with some very serious financial challenges that threaten the security, health, and educational learning experiences for our families and our loved ones. These financial challenges that threaten to divide our community are not caused by a misappropriation of funds, too many employees, wasteful spending, or any nefarious activities. The challenge is structural, where reoccurring operating costs are increasing faster than reoccurring revenues. This is especially clear in state aid. From 26 to FY27, net state aid increased by only $159,460, or 1%. That follows increases of 2.2% in FY25 and 1.8% in FY26. These increases are not sufficient to keep pace with the cost of education, public safety staffing, health insurance, retirement assessments, debt service, public works, operations, and basic municipal administration. The result is a widening gap between what the town can fund under existing revenue limits and what costs to provide the services expected of a full-service community. Tonight, in a few minutes, you'll be asked to decide on the future of the town of Abington by deciding on issues as they come before you. We'll be dealing with the level-funded budget as a balanced budget with the available revenue. It reflects the town's legal and financial obligation to adopt a balanced budget. But it does provide sufficient funding to preserve, the staffing, service capacity, and program support currently needed in FY27. The level service budget accurately represents the cost of maintaining those services that you, the residents, expect and deserve, while addressing critical operating pressures in public safety, education, public works, senior services, library services, and our core services provided by Town Hall. Since the recurring revenues are not sufficient to support the level of services needed, we require a Prop 2.5 override of $3,413,020 at town meeting this evening and at the ballot box on May 16th. Over the last few months, I've enjoyed meeting and talking with so many of our residents about budget shortfalls and the consequences if the override's not supported. My goal and that of our department heads was to make sure that there was as much information as possible available on the website, in newsletters, social media, on CAM cable, identifying what the impact of those consequences would be by department, not to scare our residents, but to support, not to scare the residents to support the override, but instead to inform everyone of what could be lost. In the end, residents will vote on what they can and cannot afford. Tonight, we want to make sure town meeting has a complete and thorough understanding of what the override vote translates to for the town of Abington in FY27. Special thanks to the Select Board, Finance Director, Finance Committee, School Department, department heads, staff, and the work throughout the whole budget process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maresco. And I'd like to personally thank especially Mr. Maresco and all the different town boards who put so much information out there today to try to help spread all the information so we could all prepare for this town meeting. I also like to take a minute, and please join me in a round of applause for everybody who volunteers for this community, whether it's for a government board or for all youth sports. There's so much volunteerism. It's wonderful. Thank you. Without any further ado, I'd like to get started. We have 21 articles to go through. We're going to do our best to move forward as quickly as possible, but also provide sufficient time for people to hear a little bit of discussion and get some questions answered. I will ask people not to be too repetitive as we speak, but we do want to make sure that you feel comfortable, that you know what you're voting for or against. The consent agenda contains Articles 1 through 5. This is usually voted, all 5 are usually voted at once. Tonight I'm going to go each individually, and there's reasons why this year, because budgets were so tight. So we're just going to start with Article 1. Article 1 is the annual funding of student transportation. Mr. Sala is going to make the motion on behalf of the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article as presented and to raise and appropriate the sum of $19,902 to fund this article.
The Finance Committee makes a motion to raise and appropriate the $19,902. This is an annual article which the town's basically required to approve in order to pay for the transportation for the kids who are going to some of the VOTEC schools. Is there anything to be heard or any questions on Article 1? If not, we'll move to a vote. If not, all those in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation and motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It is the ayes pass. Article 2, the Arc of the South Shore funding. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate to transfer $2,500 to fund the Arc of the South Shore. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article as presented and to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,500 to fund this article.
Finance Committee makes a motion to approve with the raise and appropriate of the $2,500. Any questions on Article 2? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 2, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Moving on to Article 3, the health imperative funding. To see if the town will vote, raise and appropriate to transfer from available funds the sum of $5,000 the Health Imperative Violence Prevention and Intervention Program for services provided for the sexual assault and domestic violence victims. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article as... Sure. Is that better? Whoa. Hey.
Much better.
Sorry about that. The Finance Committee motions to approve this article as presented and to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to fund this article.
Finance Committee moves to raise and appropriate the $5,000 to approve this article. Anything to be heard on Article 3? If not, all those in favor of approving the Finance Committee's motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Okay, the ayes have it. We'll take it. Article 4, matching grant funding. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate to transfer from available funds the sum of $25,000. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee motions to pass over this article with the understanding that the Finance Committee's reserve fund would be a potential source for funding if the need arises.
So the Finance Committee is making a motion to pass over this article, which means they're recommending not to spend the $25,000 tonight at town meeting. Are there any questions to be heard on this article or the motion on Article 4? If not, your motion I would be to pass over this article and not appropriate the money. All those in favor of the Finance Committee's motion to pass over, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. It is Article 4 passes. Article 5, the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Overtime and details for $20,000. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article as amended to say the St. Patrick's Day Parade and Founder's Day celebration, and transfer the sum of $20,000 from free cash to fund this article.
So Finance Committee is making a motion to transfer the sum of $20,000 for free cash for the purpose of emergency personnel during both the St. Patrick's Day Parade and the Founder's Day celebration. The total is $20,000. Anything to be heard on the Finance Committee's motion? If you want to approach a microphone and state your name and address when you get to it.
Hi, Katie Comas, 61 Old Farm Road. Not to be a Scrooge, $20,000 is a lot of money. Just wondering what the history of funding police details for private events in town has been. And it was my understanding that if a private event put something on in town, they were responsible for covering the police details. And how are these events different in town than other events that the taxpayers are responsible for those details?
So Ms. Comas's question is basically, what's the history of putting town money towards these private events, this one in particular, obviously, and any other events? Am I summarizing?
Yes, that's correct.
Great.
Thank you.
Who would like to answer that question? Mr. Town Manager or the Police Chief? Moderator recognizes our Abington Police Chief, Mr. John Bonney.
Hi, everybody. I totally appreciate the question. So when I first got here, this was sort of nobody really knew the answer on how to pay for this, whether it was private funds or not. It was a discussion on whether or not to ask town meeting last year to pay for it. The parade that we just had was about $9,000, just shy of $10,000 actually. But we had probably 30 more police officers from the metro units to keep it safe. Every single one of our police officers in Abington that was available had to work. I made it mandatory that they had to work. There's an amazing amount of streets that we have to shut down. It moves. So if you look at some of these events that have taken place around the country, my biggest fear is not just a shooting here, but somebody who is going to take a car and mow people down, which has happened before. And it's just, it can't come out of my budget. Obviously, my budget's already too tight, $10,000 for a parade. It's an amazing parade, but it can't come out of my budget. So it costs about the same amount of money for Founder's Day. So that's the history behind it. Last year, we had a discussion. It was passed last year. We did get it last year, so town meeting did pass that last year.
Thank you, Chief Bonney. Moderator recognizes Mr. Kenneth Coyle, member of the Board of Selectmen.
Ken Coyle, 222 High Street. I'm also on the Board of Directors for Abington Celebrates. And we want to make it clear that this is not a private event. As anybody who's seen the fireworks, we do not charge anything. Anybody that's been to the parade, there's no charge. This is a public event for everyone in town to enjoy.
Thank you, Mr. Coyle. Is there anything else to be heard on the Finance Committee's motion to approve Article 5 for $20,000 for free cash for the funding of the St. Patrick's Day Parade and the Founder's Day celebration? Mr. Sala.
So for the record, since I didn't say it before, Matt Sala, 25 George Gillespie Way. To Ms. Comas' question, this specific, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, has been a recurring article for town meeting. It's not necessarily every year that it's been on there, but it's been on there most of the years that I've been on the Finance Committee, which is 13 years now. I don't know if the police detail for it has ever been paid outside of a town meeting warrant article. To my knowledge does not extend back past then, but that's my experience with it. And I do know there are definitely other events where the organization putting on the event does pay for the police detail. The St. Patrick's Day Parade has typically not been one of those.
Thank you, Mr. Sala. Anything else to be heard on Article 5? If not, we'll take a vote on the Finance Committee's recommendation to allocate.
Sean.
Oh, is there one? Where are we?
We get another.
This gentleman? Yep. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Paul Nunzio Flaherty, 223 Bellows Circle. I have an interesting question. I'm wondering, there's other events like the concerts and other things at Island Grove and whatnot. If this is just specifically for the St. Patrick's Day Parade, why wouldn't the budget be going to the other events as well? Is there like a history of anything safety related at the St. Patrick's Day Parade? Just curious.
Thank you, sir. We're going to recognize Chief Bonney once again.
Those events, we do get paid from private people who have these events, but none of those events need to be staffed as robustly as the St. Patrick's Day Parade and the Founder's Day. They don't require blocks and blocks of streets to be shut down and protected, and so those are easier to handle for the organizations that do this.
Thank you. Gentleman in the rear has a question. I'm going to ask one of the ushers, Mr. Nagel, to please bring the microphone to him. Yes, sir. Please state your name and your address, please. Yes.
Wayne Crothers, 71 Shore Ave. I would like to see the
Wayne, if I can ask you, please speak right into the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
Wayne Crothers, 71 Shore Ave. I think the parade's a good thing. We're trying to get more families in town to cover the cost of the schools and building more. We're getting a lot of expenses with the schools. Well, let's get the kids in town. Let's get the families in town and help cover the cost. If you do away with these little things, then we're not going to see these other things. We need to keep the historical things going in the town to enjoy the town.
Thank you, Mr. Carruthers. Appreciate it. Any other discussions or questions on Article 5? Is there?
Jan Prowl, 20 Cleverly Street, Beef, is in B5. Lived there for 28 years. I'm on the Abington Summer Concerts. This is my 16th year. We have never, in 22 seasons, used any town funds. We handle ourselves. We don't need a police detail. We have never had to call police unless somebody fell or there was a dog bite or some bizarre thing happened. We have not needed a police detail. We are very, very lucky. The same with the St. Patrick's Day Parade, just so everybody knows. We have to pay for all the bands. That's what we raise the money for. Our budget this year is close to $23,000. St. Patrick's Day Parade, those bands aren't free. The parade committee is paying for the bands. So I think a little bit of help from the town, especially with Abington Celebrates. I am a volunteer with them also, not on the committee. But I do think the town owes something to these volunteers that put on these amazing town events.
Thank you, Mrs. Prowl. Mr. Prowl. Anything else to be heard on Article 5 in the Finance Committee's motion to approve the $20,000? Yes, sir, up in the back. No worries. While he's coming down the stairs, I got a message that there's a few people looking for seats. If you're looking for seats, I can still see plenty of seats up in this section, even down front here. You need to get a little cozy with people, but we're one happy family here tonight. Please state your name and address.
Sure. Robert McCormick, 9 Forsyth Drive. This question is actually specifically for Chief Bonney. Chief Bonney, love you, guy. You're best chief that we've ever had. I do have 2 questions, just maybe help clarify. The budget for this, is that a combination of Abington staff and paying for Metro, or is this specifically a line item to bring in Metro?
Chief Bonney.
No, Metro doesn't cost us anything. The police department's budget covers the cost of being a part of Metro, plus we have, I believe, 5 or 6 members of our own agency that belong to different Metro teams. We had drones, we had motorcycles, we had bikes, we had plainclothes detectives. None of that cost anybody in this room a penny. And it's important to have that type of staffing for this because, we do a lot of watching these types of events from around the country. And I can't promise the safety of everyone if I don't have a staff that big. So the cost of this is just for the Abington Police Department officers who I mandate to be there.
Excellent, thank you. And then I had one other thing I was going to ask, but that's all right. You answered my. Historically, and I know your tenure is short, but historically, have you had a large number of incidents during the parade, or has it been fairly minimal?
The only incident that I can remember is last year we had a fall that we responded to before. And this year we did have, I believe, a drone caught some suspicious activity. We had officers. We have the video footage of it. We had people surrounding the person fairly quickly, and they were identified as not doing anything suspicious. But the eye in the sky caught it, and it was amazing.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief Bonney. You're doing an excellent job.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chief Bonney. Anything else to be heard on Article 5? If not, we'll move to a vote. So the vote is to approve adopt the Finance Committee's motion to transfer $20,000 of free cash for the purpose of funding the public safety officials for St. Patrick's Day Parade and Founders Day celebration. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. It passes. Article 6, payment of prior year's bills, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a total of where is the total? $464.87 for bills that were submitted late to the town. This does require a 4/5 vote. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article as presented and to transfer the sum of $464.87 from free cash to fund this article.
Mr. Sala, I'm going to ask you, can you explain just quickly what late bills are?
So a late bill is a bill that comes in after we have closed the financial year. So the financial year for the town runs from July 1st to June 30th of the next year. When we have closed out all of the books for the year, if a bill for that financial year comes in, we legally, by state statute, we cannot pay it until it's approved by town meeting.
And
So
that's why we're here tonight.
That's why we're asking for $464 for this particular thing.
In under state law, we need a 4/5 vote or better. So if it's not a unanimous vote, I need to ask each and every one of you to stand up, and we're going to count you one by one. Hint, hint. Any questions on Article 6? I'm trusting you. If not, all those in favor of supporting the Finance Committee's motion to transfer $464.87 for free cash for the purpose of Article 6, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on. Article 7. Article 7, payment of accrued time. To see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $27,000 to pay for accrued time for a retiring police department employee. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article as presented and to transfer the sum of $27,000 from free cash to fund this article.
Finance Committee makes a motion to approve. Any questions on Article 7? If not, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the Finance Committee's motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It is unanimous. Article 8, funding of union contracts. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate to transfer available funds a sum of money for the first year of collective bargaining agreement with the Abington Public Library Staff Association Local 4928. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee motions to pass over this article as there is no resolution to the collective bargaining agreement at this time.
This was a placeholder in the warrant in case the negotiations were finished, but they are not finished at this time, so the motion is to pass over this article. Anything to be heard or any questions on Article 8? There being none, all those in favor of the Finance Committee's motion to pass over the article, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It's unanimous to pass over. Article 9, close the grant deficit. To see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $64,829. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article as presented and to transfer the sum of $64,829 from free cash to fund this article.
Finance Committee makes a motion to approve the article and from free cash. Any questions on Article 9? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It is unanimous. Article 10, opioid settlement housekeeping article. See if the town will vote to raise appropriate to transfer available funds a sum of $122,823.78 for the purposes stated in the article. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article as presented and to transfer the sum of $122,823.78 from free cash to fund this article.
Finance Committee makes a motion to approve and to fund it with free cash. Is there anything to be heard on Article 10? There being none, all those in favor of Article 10, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It is unanimous. Article 11, Chapter 90 apportionments. To see if the town will vote to accept Chapter 90 funds in the amount of $583,342.34, which go towards roadway and transportation-related improvement work. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article as presented.
This article will probably be in our consent agenda next year. It's an article that comes up. The state gives each town, city and town money, Chapter 90 money, that we can use for our roads. But we had it separately here today, but we need your vote so that we can take that money for the town of Abington. So the motion is on the floor. Anything that you heard in Article 11? If not, all those in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation to approve the article, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. It is unanimous. Article 12, South Shore Vocational Technical High School Agreement Amendment. See if the town will vote to approve the amended South Shore Regional Vocational School District Regional Agreement, copy which is on file at the town clerk's office. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee moves to approve this article.
Finance Committee makes a motion to approve the article. There's a little description in your warrant. Are there any questions about Article 12? If not, all those in favor of the Finance Committee's motion to approve Article 12, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Article 13, keeping with quick things, we'll slow down now in Article 13. Article 13 is our annual article to approve the town's operating budget for the coming fiscal year. Fiscal year 2027 starts on July 1st of 2026 and goes through June 30th of 2027. Each year, we have a town meeting this time of year to approve the next year's budget. We have to approve a budget tonight, or our government and the police and schools and fire and DPW have no money as of July 1st. Now, tonight, at the back of your handout with the warrant, if you could turn to at least the first page of the proposed FY 2027 town budget. I'll give you a minute to get to that page. It's attached to your warrant. You'll see down the bottom, up at the top it says proposed FY 2027 town budget. On the bottom it says page 1, and it's followed by page 2, 3, and 4. 4 is not actually labeled because it's more of information than budget. So we have pages 1, 2, and 3. In a typical year that didn't have the financial difficulties that towns were, sorry?
Are we putting the
Yes.
pages on the screen?
Yes, it will be. In a typical year, we would be voting the column that says Finance Committee recommendation. This year, the town, the Finance Committee, the town at large is proposing two different levels of funding our budget. So if you notice on the handout, the proposed FY 2027 town budget, you'll see FY 2027 FinCom recommended levels funded column, and then next to that, you'll see the level service column. The level funded column, I'm going to let Matt and others explain more about this, but we want to make sure we get some baseline information out here. The level funded column will fund all of our town departments basically with the same amount of money that they had this previous year, this current year. And in doing so, that will require cuts to the majority of the departments. The level service budget would provide enough funding for all of your services to stay the same for the next coming year. But that level service budget, if approved here tonight, would also require your approval at the ballot election on May 16th. So if it's approved here tonight, it's only halfway done. You have to then go to the ballot election on May 16th. And as you all know, the level service supplemental budgets, the override budgets, are broken into 7 categories. And it'll be your choice as the voter to go into the privacy of the ballot to pick yes or no on all of the 7 proposed supplemental budgets. All, none, some, it's your choice. Tonight, we also have to make a choice to approve all of the supplemental budgets and let it go to the ballot, and then you make your choices, all, none, or some. Or theoretically, you could vote for some of the supplemental budgets. But for a supplemental budget, an override budget, to be approved for any department for the next year, it has to have a positive vote tonight here at town meeting, and then has to also get a positive vote, majority votes at both, at the ballot election. Understand where I am right now? We'll go into this in more detail, but tonight is not the end decision. You have to have 2 different votes, a successful town meeting vote and a successful ballot vote. So if you approve all 7 tonight, hypothetically, you may or may not see all 7 approved at the ballot. We won't know until the ballot election. But it gives you the right to make those decisions at the ballot. Okay? We're going to focus first with approving the level, asking you to approve the level funded budget, which does not require an override. We'd like to have some discussion about the level funded budget and see if the town will approve that budget so we can lock in the fact that we have a budget no matter what happens at the ballot elections. If they all fail, then we have the level funded budget in place if you approve that tonight. And I know, because I'm on the inside here, that's the motion from the Finance Committee, is to approve the level funded budget. We will talk about the level service budget and the overrides separately and in more detail. So we have to go one at a time. I'm going to ask Mr. Sala to make we're going to make two motions. The first motion will be their motion to approve the level funded budget only. And we'll talk and we'll take a vote on that. Then he's going to take a second motion on the floor to propose the approval of the supplemental budgets, the 7 override budgets, subject to the ballot election. That'll be a second vote we'll take here to approve that second column, the level service column, okay? So I'm going to ask Mr. Sala to just put the first motion on the floor, and then I'm going to ask the town manager, he's going to ask, actually, we're going to hold on that. I'm going to ask if there's any general questions, and then we'll kind of start focusing in on the level funded budget. Once we feel comfortable, we'll ask for your vote to approve the Finance Committee's motion. Then we will take a separate discussion, and I anticipate a longer discussion, on the level service budget. And at that point, we'll get some information to you on the floor about that and get into as much detail as you'd like to. So if you don't mind, Matt Sala, on behalf of the Finance Committee, has to make a very detailed motion to approve, to ask for your approval of the level funded budget, and he has to read it specifically, word for word, line by line, to say where all the money's coming from, out of free cash, out of different taxes, out of water and sewer. So the stage is yours, Mr. Sala. Please follow along on the screen. Matt will read the motion, the first motion under Article 13 regarding the level funded column.
And as Sean said, apologies for how long this motion's going to take. The Finance Committee moves that the town appropriate the total sum of $76,357,946 to defray general fund salaries and expenses of the town for FY 2027, as set forth in the detailed budget under the column entitled FY 2027 Finance Committee Recommended Level Funded, and to meet said appropriations, raise and appropriate the sum of $71,799,162 and to transfer the total sum of $4,558,784 as follows. Fund 450 Cable Access Enterprise Indirect Costs, $7,683. Fund 460 Golf Enterprise Indirect Costs, $116,138. Fund 470 Sewer Enterprise Indirect Costs, $683,004. Fund 490 Water Enterprise Indirect Costs, $786,512. Free cash, $2,965,477.
47? Is it, what do you have, 477?
447.
Okay, 447. Go ahead, you're doing great.
Two correct, $2,965,447. And further, and there's a lot more further, that the town approve the following special revenue enterprise funds for fiscal year 2027 budgets as set forth at the end of the detailed budget. Appropriate from conservation receipts the total sum of $5,000 to defray the conservation receipts reserved expenses for FY 2027, all as set forth in the detailed budget. Appropriate from the cable access enterprise receipts the sum of $257,683 to defray the cable access enterprise fund salaries and expenses from FY 2027, with the sum of $7,683 to be appropriated in the general fund as shown and allocated to the cable access enterprise fund for funding, all set forth in the detailed budget. Appropriate from golf enterprise receipts the total sum of $587,014 to defray the golf enterprise salaries and expenses for FY 2027, with the sum of $116,138 to be appropriated in the general fund as shown and allocated to the golf enterprise fund for funding, all as set forth in the detailed budget. Appropriate from sewer enterprise receipts the total sum of $3,106,040 to defray the sewer enterprise fund salaries and expenses for FY 2027, with the sum of $683,004 to be appropriated in the general fund as shown and allocated to the sewer enterprise fund for all funding as set forth in the detailed budget. and to appropriate from water enterprise receipts the total sum of $4,038,593 to defray the water enterprise fund salaries and expenses for FY 2027, with the sum of $786,512 to be appropriated in the general fund as shown and allocated to the water enterprise fund for funding all as set forth in the detailed budget.
Well done, Mr. Sala. Thank you for your patience. That proposal is to present a balanced budget under the level funded column. Those are all the revenue sources that he has to go through statutorily if we can put it on the record. And then the budget under the level funded column on the 3 pages lists how that's all spent, where it's allocated among all the departments. Are there any questions about the level funded budget or the motion that's on the floor by the Finance Committee? Mr. Leonelli, do you want to speak?
Is that okay?
Are you an Abington resident?
Tim Leonelli, 42 Nash Memorial Road, a proud Abington resident, in fact. I'll make this quick. While I work for our children in our town as a school employee, I am not speaking for the school department. I am speaking strictly as a private resident and not in my official capacity. I just want to share my personal perspective. The position we're in, frankly, sucks. And I don't mean to be kind of light about it. It is what it is. Many of us are feeling the financial strain, including myself. It hasn't been easy recently. For those that aren't aware, this is happening in dozens of towns across Massachusetts. This is not an Abington thing. We're stuck between holding onto core services that we rely on every day and the level level funded, which is cuts. They will be significant cuts, and it's going to be cuts that's going to take many years to recover from. I see the positive influence in our town every day. I'm lucky to work with many of your children, or should I say, our children. We all play a pivotal role in supporting young people here in our town. The idea that our kids will receive less of an education next year is disheartening. It's just tough. It's tough. I'm affected by the cuts, but I could care less. But I believe our kids deserve more than what we've had before them. Please recall a moment where you felt the town had made a positive difference in your life or your child's life, even being on the streets of our famous St. Patrick's Day parade. We do some great things for each other here in Abington. Tonight and on Saturday, May 16th, we have control of what happens next, and this is where I tie into this. I'm going to vote no on a level funded budget. And in a moment, I'm going to vote yes on a level service budget. I'm going to vote yes on the override of all town departments. I will vote yes for our children, and I will vote yes for Abington. I'm ready to strap in. I'm ready to invest in each other. Our children that's going to come, many will never meet. And I believe that Abington can do tough things, but great things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonelli. Moderator recognizes Matt Sala.
Just one quick point on that. Voting on the level funded and level service is not an either or. You can vote yes on both. You can vote no on both. Voting on the level funded budget does not preclude you from voting for the override. What it does is it sets up a balanced budget for the town if we vote no on the level service budget, and sets us in place to have a budget if we vote, regardless of how we vote on the override.
Does everyone understand that point? It's critical we understand that. That the first motion that's on the floor now is to approve the level funded budget. Assuming that passes, that sets a budget for next year at the level funded level, which will require the cuts that have been described and will be described in just a few minutes. We will then move to a vote for the level service budget, which has the supplemental budgets, the override budgets. You can vote yes or no on that, but if it is positive here, it goes to the ballot box anyhow. Again, that column requires 2 votes. So the proposal from the Finance Committee, they're asking you to approve the level funded so we can walk out of here knowing that the town has a budget set. Frankly, if we didn't set a budget tonight, we'd have to call another town meeting and come back, and we have to do it before June 30th because the money has to be approved before July 1st. So they're asking you to take this in 2 steps. Finance Committee is making a motion to approve the level funded budget, so we walk out of here knowing at least we have that, no matter what happens with the overrides. We'll take a second vote about the override budget, and we'll discuss that in more depth, and we'll see how that plays out, and the ballot box essentially is typically the deciding factor. Okay, do we understand that? The reason why they're going for the level funded first, set that, and then ask for level service, and let's have a good discussion about that. That's what's being proposed and put on the floor tonight. I'll recognize
Rose Perry, 20 Kimber Circle. Just to help me understand why the level-funded budget is $3 million more than what we approved for last year.
great question. Moderator recognizes the town manager or the
I can take
oh, I'm sorry, Matt Sala, he knows
So I
everything.
can take that. One of the trickier things to understand for us, for the Finance Committee going through this project, is why level funded was not the same amount. And the largest reason that level funded is not the same amount is because there are fixed costs that increase. The healthcare cost is not within the control of the town, what we pay for healthcare. There are contractual obligations to our town employees, teachers, firefighters, police officers, et cetera. The costs, it's level funded in that the funding is maintained for all of the sources that we funded previously. So we're funding essentially the same department budgets, but the fixed costs go up.
Thank you, Mr. Sala. This gentleman here, if you could again state your name and address.
Paul Nunzio Flaherty, 223 Bellows Circle. As a recipient of special education services at Abington High School and as a resident who has autism, I'm wondering what would happen to special education services at our school with the level funded budget, and what would happen hypothetically, and also what would be done to supplement students who need sped services?
Okay, so that's going to be presented in detail when we talk about the proposed level service budget, but that's a great question. I think deserves an answer right now. We'll try not to go in too much detail with every single budget, but the moderator recognizes the school superintendent, Dr. Felicia Moschella. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, Mr. Flaherty. As part of our reduction in services that I'll lay out in a few minutes, you will see some reductions in special education services, but nothing that would impact a student's individual education plan, so students would receive the services that we are legally obligated to provide.
Thank you, Doctor. Any other questions on the approval of the level funded column only? Someone coming? Go right over here, Chris. This lady right here, if you could state your name and address.
Maria Manning, 143 Summit Road. I just had a quick question. So for the level funded and the level service, is that just for fiscal year 2027? Like, if all of these overrides are approved, our taxes would only increase for like 1 year, or is that like permanent since the budget changes?
Great question. Mr. Sala?
The way a Proposition 2.5 override works is it increases by this specific amount, but that increases the levy amount that the town can take in year after year. So it does increase essentially in perpetuity.
Permanent. Yes. Mr. Murphy, and then Mr. Go ahead, sir.
Chris Murphy,
You can
200 Chestnut Street. I just have a question. One of the funding sources for this budget, the level funded budget, is free surplus, which is an amount that's left over in the 2025 year that we normally use for things that we don't expect. And I'm just asking, how much free surplus is left after we use the 2.9 million?
You're eyeballing our finance director, Andrew Nocon, which, give him a second, he has to rifle through a ton of information to try to find the answer to that question. And I would like to note that Mr. Nokon is appropriately dressed for May the 4th be with you.
Live long and prosper. So as far as free cash goes, for this year, we had $3,289,054. After we spend everything that's in the warrant, we'll have about $46,239 plus the 25 for the grant funding that we're not using.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manning.
Robert Manning, 34 Orange Street. Just a financial question on the allocation of the water funds and the sewer funds. Would the allocation of any water funds have any direct impact on the current project to purify our water?
I believe the answer to that, and I'm looking at the water department head who is shaking her head no. The answer is no.
Where is she? I'm looking for her. Oh, there you are. Hi, Crystal. No. The answer is no from our water superintendent. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Michael Sullivan, 79 Walker Lane. I'm not sure I fully understood the answer to the question about why a level-funded budget is over $3 million more than the FY26 budget. I would assume that as part of that $3 million, that includes contractual pay raises and some of the other costs. We're going up by 4% on a level-funded, what you're calling a level-funded budget, which to me might sound like more like a level service budget as opposed to a level-funded budget. So for my help, can you better explain why a level-funded budget is 4% more than the budget that was approved by the town in FY26?
Mr. Sala.
Yep. So a bit of it is semantics of calling it level funded. It is level funded in the way that we are essentially, so let me back up for a second. The work on this year's budget started almost immediately after town meeting last year. The previous town manager, our finance director, all of the department heads in town started working, and they started with a base of this was my department's budget last year. And they worked from there, and on top of that, it added in, they factored in contractual increases as kind of keeping that at not factoring that into level service, but as to level funded. We didn't factor in health insurance, liability, debt, several areas that are essentially out of the control of the different departments. So it's in a way level funded. It's not quite level service because because to get to this amount does not bring all of the services that we have been providing this year. So we chose the wording of level funded because it's closer to level funded than to level service, which is the other budget that's being presented. It is higher, and we do understand that, but it's higher based on fixed costs, if that makes sense. I know that if any of you watched any of the finance committee meetings from this past year, there has been a lot of discussion about this specifically and about how the number is not the same. It's been a point of consternation for us as well as for you. It has been for the town officers, the department heads as well, but it's the way that we have tried to present the best options to the town. This budget was the budget that we could balance. As Chris mentioned, we're using what is referred to as free cash, which everybody knows there's no such thing as free cash, especially when governments are involved. But in this case, what free cash refers to, for anyone who does not know, is after last year's budget was balanced and the books were closed, it's essentially the money that the town had left over, where we appropriated more money than what we spent. And so in this case, I believe Andrew said it was somewhere around $3.2 million that we had appropriated that we did not spend last year. And we're taking most of that money and applying it to this year's level funded budget. We don't as a finance committee, we don't want to do that. We want to be able to pay for the budget, the expenses in the budget, with the income that the town makes. This year, we could not do that. So we were looking at a budget that we could balance with the available funds that we had. And that's what the level funded budget is. And the level service is the budget on top of that that provides the same all of the same services that we've had this year.
Thank you,
Does
Mr. Sala.
Does that help?
I'm sure you all got that. All right. Next question.
Again, Rob McCormick, 9 Forsyth Drive. Just one comment and then 2 points of clarification that I'm asking for. Firstly, Chief Bonney, can you arrest that man for wearing a Star Trek uniform on International Star Wars Day? Thank you. And the 2 questions that I'm more curious about than anything else, only because it makes up roughly just under 2.8 million of that override. With a level funded budget, and this question is actually to Chief Bonney and then also the school superintendent, are there services that we will lose as a town if we only go with the level funded budget versus if we vote for the level service budget?
Can I ask that you ask that question when we are in the second motion, which is going to be, each one of the departments is being asked to stand up and answer just that question. What is the difference if I don't vote for the level service budget? What is being cut? Okay? I don't
hang out over here. It's a long.
Yeah, all right. You come right back up. Just because I don't want to muddy the waters because I know they're already muddied. So we'd like to focus on the Finance Committee's motion to approve the level funded budget so we can establish a town budget. It's your choice. And then we will move to the level service where we will give a lot more detail about what if I don't approve the level service? What if I do approve the level service? What are the cuts if I don't? What are the services I protect if I do? We will go through that in detail in the level service discussion. This we thought was going to be the easiest way to kind of bifurcate the things and talk about the 2 different budgets. So right now we're talking again about the level funded budget, which will result in cuts. But if you'd be patient with us, we're going to describe those cuts when we ask them to talk about what their proposed override would bring back. Okay? So the motion on the floor is to approve the level funded budget as a baseline budget. Are there any other questions about the level funded budget? There are no dumb questions here because, these are difficult things. I mean, I think the Finance Committee meetings are now the #1 rated show on Abington camp. And they do. Can I just pause for a second? These guys volunteer, and if you watch them, the work they do is unbelievable. They're all volunteers. Can I ask for a round of applause? Because I know I forgot. And given that, we still have a vacancy on the Finance Committee. If you'd like to get on the Finance Committee, please talk to me or Matt Sala or any other members on the Finance Committee. Is there a question here at this microphone? Please state your name and address.
Martha Kraft, 175 Damon Road in Abington.
Better be.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand. We have money right now that has not been spent for the fiscal year 26. We're taking that money plus last year's 73 million, $47,803 plus 2.5% to come up with the 76,000, et cetera, what's written here, for the level funding.
Just
and we need that to at least have a budget for July 1st.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're going to have a government shutdown. Is that correct?
That's
Yes.
correct, yes.
Awesome.
Unless we have another town meeting before then and approve
Okay.
a balanced
Thank you.
budget. And Chris Murphy did bring me some numbers for Mr. Sullivan, who had asked. The majority of the 3.2 million increase is health insurance, retirement funds, and Chris, what was the debt service? That's about 3.1 of the $3.2 million difference.
Thank you, Mr. Kraft. Thank you, Mr. Sala. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Anything else to be heard on the Finance Committee's motion to approve the level funded budget before we move on to a later discussion? So I'm going to ask all those in favor of approving the Finance Committee's motion to say aye. All those opposed to say no. It's a majority vote. There's nothing further being held. All those in favor of approving the Finance Committee's motion to approve the level funded budget as presented in the budget handout, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. So we will now move on to the discussion of the level service column. Level service requires a supplemental budget for many of the budgets, which also, in other words, are overrides. Hold on one sec, Mr. Malika. Well, you have a general question or a specific question?
Yeah, general.
General question.
Paul Malika, 152 Presidential Drive. I read in the Globe within the past 2 months that 50 or 60 towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts are in a budget deficit because of cutbacks from state revenue to the cities and towns. I know that listen to the news, the state of Massachusetts is going through their budget process now, et cetera, et cetera. What efforts are being made to increase the revenue funding back to all the cities and towns in the Commonwealth? Anybody have any ideas?
What efforts are being made to get more money out of the state, basically?
Yes, to come back to the towns.
Back to the towns.
Yeah.
Town manager, Michael Moresco, or is our state representative, or I know the state senator had to leave for another town meeting. Moderator recognizes Mr. Michael Moresco, town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is a bone of contention with the Finance Committee, with our own internal finance people. You heard from my beginning remarks, the amount of local aid share has been going down. We're getting a very small percentage of that. The House has already gone through their debate, and the numbers are pretty much the same. I don't expect to see an increase or a large increase, anything to offset the cost that we need to have the budget. The Senate's going to take up their budget. The governor already did their budget, so we already have been able to look at local aid, and it's around that. It nets out to about 1%, which really is a cut because local aid's coming down. So it is a challenge. We spoke to our state representative. I know that she's working hard to try to get an increase in local aid, and I know I spoke to our state senator at a veterans event, and they would love to see that increase. But the Commonwealth, and I don't want to take up too much time, but the Commonwealth's going through their own financial growing pains. A lot of federal money that was coming in to the state has been cut also. So the state has to be able to take care of their obligations. Of course, cities and towns, I think, should be one of their biggest obligations, making sure that we're getting our fair share. But, we're going to continue to work with our legislative delegation to make sure that we get additional funds because cities and towns are hurting. I heard that gentleman, I'm sorry, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but there are about 71 communities right now that are going through override process, that the revenues are just not there to sustain the types of services. And we're not talking grandiose. We're talking about, employees that, whether they're in the schools or the general government side, to provide those services. We want to have good education. We want to have safe streets. We want to have the fire department and ambulance. We want to make sure we have DPW. DPW, they had a horrific winter this year. The winter storm alone, we're hoping to get the Commonwealth to give us back about $415,415 to that 48-hour window of that blizzard. So, we're going to continue to be working with the delegation to make sure that we get back the money that's owed to us. But it's challenging. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moresco. Another general question? Oh, I'm sorry. It's our state representative, Allison Sullivan Almeida.
Good evening.
An Abington resident, by the way.
Yes, an proud Abington resident. I think someone else said that. I will be brief. I know we're going to have a long night. We did just have the debate in the House this past week. I did file several amendments to our $63 billion budget. I worked with our superintendent here in Abington. regarding special education. We wanted to lower the threshold that Abington would be responsible for and increase the refund that you would get from the state. Unfortunately, that did not pass in the House. I also filed legislation that would increase the reimbursement rate from 75% to 80%, which would also have a significant impact here in Abington from some of our special education costs. One of the biggest amendments I did file was to increase our unrestricted general government aid to 10%. That would have really given a boost here in Abington and several other communities. Unfortunately, I hate to report that that also did not pass. I advocated on the House floor. Me and several of my other colleagues spoke on the amendment as best as we could, but House leadership shot that down. So I apologize. I did advocate for our community here. I do own a house in Abington. I do pay taxes. So I know the impact this is going to have on all of us. So I will continue to keep fighting. I will be a thorn in our senator's side when it comes to the Senate budget, and hoping that he will too file an amendment that would increase local aid here in Abington and across the Commonwealth out of our $63 billion budget. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. Almeida. So what I'd like to do now is to ask once again for Matt Sala to put a motion on the table for, can we put the motion on first, or do you want to? Oh, okay, Chris Murphy would like to speak. Member of the Finance Committee, Abington, proud Abington resident.
Chris Murphy again. This question is the state not increasing as much is part of the problem. It is not the whole problem. Even if the state increased 5% this year, we would still need an override. It's because of all these expenses that keep going up. I just want to make that clear. It's only a small, well, probably a third of the problem.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. So I'm going to ask Mr. Sala to make the second motion so we can put it on the floor and then talk about it in more detail. So the moderator recognizes Chairman Matt Sala.
This one's not as long. The Finance Committee moves to raise and appropriate the following sums of money to supplement the fiscal year 2027 operating budgets for the departments shown below, to increase said budgets to the amounts shown in the detailed budget under the column entitled FY 2027 Finance Committee Recommendations Level Service, with each line constituting a separate appropriation, provided, however, that the amounts authorized herein for each department shown below shall be contingent on the passage of a corresponding Proposition 2.5 override ballot question at the May 16th, 2026 special election. Fire Department, $275,514. Police Department, $875,486. School Department, $1,622,486. Department of Public Works, $261,994. Council on Aging.
Scratch that. Hold on. What was DPW?
$261,994.
Okay, that might be a typo. Sorry. See, that's what I say. That's my typing. Matt's right. 994. Sorry.
Council on Aging, $6,498. The Public Library, $13,964. The town offices, including the offices of the town manager, town clerk, assessors, building commissioner, treasurer, health department, information technology, veterans, and planning, $358,380.
Thank you, Mr. Sala. 1 second. Can I just confirm with our financial officers down below me, is the DPW number 261,994 or 094? 094. So up on the screen is right. Sorry, Matt, what I gave you in writing was wrong. The number up on the screen is right. Sorry for the DPW. 261,094. And that's what's on the ballot. Those are the numbers up on the ballot. So Mr. Sala has made the motion. Oh, geez. 1,622,000.
I have the same number.
What do you have, 114? We tried to type a handout to make it simple, so apologize. The school number, Andrew, Mr. Nocon, is All right, so the school department up here is wrong for the school. It is $1,622,114. So that handout, it's the last page of what you received. The last page of what you received, which has supplemental budget appropriation menu information. Those numbers are correct. They're the same, right? No, so fire department, let me just review. Let's follow along. If you go to that last page in the handout, which you thought might be easy for everyone to follow, the fire department's number is $275,414.
500.
What did I say? Jeez, I can't even talk right.
I'll read through them.
All right, Matt's going to read it. I'm not supposed to do that.
Fire department, $275,514.
Right?
Police,
Correct. Good.
Police department, $875,486. School department, $1,622,114. The Department of Public Works, $261,094. Council on Aging, $6,468. The Public Library, $13,964. And the Town Hall offices, $358,380.
Right? 358, 380. The town clerk has a sample budget. She's confirmed what Matt just said is correct. What's printed is correct. And that's why I say at the beginning of the meeting, whatever the warrant article or whatever Matt says is correct, that's our guide. I apologize for the confusion there. But the handout of the numbers we're going with, those are your override amounts, also called supplemental budget amounts. If we approve, and I know you want to say something, if we approve the level service column, you would be approving those amounts that are printed subject to the ballot box election. That will be the final determining factor. Mr. Sala.
So very quickly, I wanted to share with you kind of what the process was for the Finance Committee. We had a lot of debate and approved with some disagreement the balanced budget, the level funded budget. With the level service budget, we felt that it was incumbent on you as town meeting and on the town as a whole at the ballot box to have the say on what happens with the override. So even the people who dissented on the level funded budget voted to recommend approval of this so that it would go to you as the town and so that it would go to the ballot box for your say, more so than our say. We have our recommendation, which was in fact to approve this, but we were really focused on you as the town having your say here and at the ballot.
And once again, in order for any one of these 7 supplemental budgets to pass, they must get an affirmative vote tonight, majority vote, and they must have a majority vote on its own in the ballot box. You'll vote 7 times in the ballot box, okay? Before we get any questions, what I'd like to do, the town manager had asked each of the different departments to be able to stand up and give a hopefully 2 or 3 minute summary of what the supplemental budget means to the department. If it doesn't pass, what will get cut? If it does pass, what will be preserved? And Mr. Town Manager, would you like to go in order?
Sure, Mr. Moderator.
So it'd be my honor to pick on Fire Chief Jack Glynn, who is an Abington, a proud Abington resident. Mr. Chief Glynn, if you could explain, basically the supplemental appropriation would be $275,514 for the fire department. Chief Glynn.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bear with me for just one quick second. Today is International Firefighters Day, so I would love to give basically a shout out to the men and women that I work with in the Abington Fire Department. They're a group full of all-stars. Thank you. This has been a tough process for everybody.
Can you hear him okay? Hey, Chief, can you point that towards you or raise it up?
How about now? Oh, boy. Sorry about that. This has been a tough process for everybody to get through. And in the process of it, I've actually been able to field some terrific questions from you folks out there. For us to get to the level funded budget from the level services,
we would have to cut $275,000 and 514. That's the number we had to get to. And the question we had with my team was, how do we get there? And what do we prioritize? Because the cuts are going to really, really hurt. And the priorities were maintain the staffing we have to be able to provide 2 ambulances. That was our priority. We were able to get there, but it's not a guarantee that if something unforeseen happens, that we're going to have that second ambulance available. And I want to make something really clear with you. A lot of people say, well, the second ambulance, is it a backup ambulance? This is where I want to clarify it for you. We run 2 ambulances. They don't back each other up. Yesterday, each one of them went out 5 or 6 times and transported equally. Same thing the day before, same thing the day before that. So it's 2 ambulances that are equal. It's not a backup where one sits there and waits for the other one. They're both active. We had a tough call in front of our station with a pedestrian hit 4 months ago that's doing well, by the way. Both ambulances are out on the road. One cleared the hospital, and they came back to the station to help treat this man. So that's where the majority of our cuts are going to really hit hard for us. The cuts basically included, 3 years ago, we put in an article for $380,000 to replace expired personal protective equipment for our firefighters. We are not allowed to attend the fire academy if these are expired. So what we had to do in the past was we would rent gear for people. We pulled that article back 2 years ago because it was difficult. We understood with the town, and we said, well, if we're really, really efficient and go through grants and go through everything possible in our operating budget, we might be able to get this little by little. And that's what we've tried to do. If we get these cuts, we will not be able to finish the project, and we're approximately 2/3 of the way through. We're going to be cutting all the training programs that aren't part of the collective bargaining agreement. That means some of the times you see us out in the streets doing some of the burn training and things like that. Our school fire education training, we've got a grant from the SAFE program. It's approximately $7,000. It barely pays enough from the state to buy the supplies. We supplement that. We always have. Certain details we do within the town. Storm coverage, putting extra people on. But the biggest thing, obviously, is going to be the salaries and trying to fill it. So how do we get through that? And there are going to be times that we can't predict. You may have an injury, time off, whatever. We're going to be that close that if something unforeseen happens, we're going to occasionally have to drop the second ambulance or one ambulance. And it's going to snowball because we average bringing in $1.4 million a year from the insurance revenues, and it goes into the general fund. It's going to snowball for us beyond the care we give, and I could spend all night doing that, and nobody wants to hear me talk about that. It's a very scary thing. We pride ourselves on being extremely efficient. We're an open book. Every grant possibility we go through, we do everything possible to make sure we're as efficient as we can possibly be for this town and provide the best services we can. But I just want to explain to you, if we don't get the override, there is going to be times when that ambulance, one of the 2 ambulances, is going to have to go out of service based on being able to cover stuff. And years and years ago, we did this where we sent one person out by themselves in a ladder truck. It's dangerous, and it's not something we want to get back to. That's something we're concerned about. I'll leave you with this. We operate 2 ambulances. Our call volume each year for calls for service range anywhere from 4,000 to 4,500 calls per year. We run 2 ambulances, 6-person shifts. In the 1970s, we ran 1 ambulance with 1,000 calls a year. Same staffing, 6 people. So we're doing everything we can possible. I would not be standing here as a taxpayer and as a homeowner and as the chief of your department without giving you exactly the facts you need to know. It's in your hands what you need to do, but I'm presenting the facts to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Glenn. Okay. From the police department, Chief Bonney, unfortunately, you only have about 30 seconds left. But Chief Bonney, please, if you could summarize how the override might affect your department.
It'd just be a really good idea to pass our override. Thank you. No, to the previous question earlier, our department would face significant cuts to people, not through attrition, but real people who come to work with us every single day. When we presented the Finance Committee last year, we felt that we were going to be able to fill open positions. We had 7 open positions that weren't filled. Historically, the Abington Police Department, under civil service, it was very, very difficult for us to hire. We knew once we left civil service that hiring would be quick. We'd be able to fill open positions quickly. So anticipating the vote where you guys supported us greatly at the ballot last year to leave civil service in April, that vote happened last April. Last January, we held a non-civil service test because we knew we would get the bodies to the academy as quickly as possible after that April election to leave civil service. So we knew we would fill the empty positions. Steve Marquardt, who's a sergeant of over 30 years, told me when we first started planning this that he never once worked, never had a single year working for the Abington Police Department where they weren't hiring at least someone for an open position. We have no availabilities as of right now because we are at full staff. Back in 2022, we were staffed for 25, this is before I got here, I was doing some research for the Finance Committee, it was 25 patrol officers. Right now we have 20. And our numbers are skyrocketing as far as arrests and citations written and things like that. So what we would actually lose, we would lose 6 patrol officers, so 6 of the 7 new kids that we hired would go. And they would go to other departments like that. They're incredibly talented. They're really motivated to work, and we would lose them in a second. And getting them back would take a year and a half, and we wouldn't get those people. I want those people to work for us, not just bodies. They're incredible human beings who love working in this town and wearing this patch. On top of that, we would lose a records clerk, which is mandatory. I have to fill that position because she fills public records requests. If we don't fill public records requests, the Attorney General gets involved and we get fined thousands if we don't fulfill public records. We have a part-time firearms clerk. Obviously, the Second Amendment, I really don't have to say anything more. We have to have a firearms clerk. A property and evidence officer. No department gets in trouble more than people who mess around with evidence. We have to have somebody in evidence. Court prosecutor. We're the only department in Brockton District Court that doesn't have a full-time court prosecutor. It's usually done by a full-time police officer, as is that evidence position, a full-time police officer. Both those positions are filled with retired part-time officers. This is putting Band-Aids on bullet holes, and we have run as lean as we possibly can. And cutting further, I would now have to take patrol officers and fill those 4 positions. So I would lose 6 patrol officers off the top. Then I would have to take 4 more and put them in these positions that I just said. That means there are 10 patrol officers left for the street. That means there's no detective. We just appointed a detective that would start after town meeting. After the override if we get it. And we would also have to pull both SROs out of the school. That means Officer Morgan, who handles Harlow, and the mayor of Abington, Jimmy White, would have to go back on the road. They wouldn't lose their positions, but they would be reassigned out of the schools into the street. That means we have 10 patrol officers on the street. We'd also lose our entire desk position, which would have to be filled with overtime because we can't leave our desk open. And that overtime would cost roughly $590,599 a year. That's not in my budget. I have a $180,000 overtime budget. We would also lose 3 part-time desk positions and a part-time administrative assistant. So it's 16 total people, real people that we have working in our building would go. 40% of our staff. What happened was, because we had open positions, and historically it's been very difficult to hire those positions, the 6 positions, 7 positions really, but 1 is on a federal grant. They weren't funded. And I don't blame them for not funding. They took a calculated risk because historically we had trouble hiring. We don't have trouble hiring anymore. People want to not just work here. We had 2 people get recruited by other departments in the last year and a half. A larger agency, a city agency, and a federal agency. They both chose to stay in Abington because of what we built here and the support that you guys provide us. So what it would cost us financially, we would have about 76 open shifts a month. And what an open shift is, that means we don't physically have a body to fill that shift. The shift minimum is 2 patrol officers and a sergeant. We wouldn't have enough to fill that. So what I would have to do is I would have to allow, like we had to do before when I first got here, sergeants and lieutenants to work patrol overtime. That is a financial nightmare because sergeants and lieutenants make significantly more than patrol officers. So open shift overtime would be over $500,000. Like I said earlier, the desk coverage would be basically $591,000. These are approximations. Then our officers get vacation time. Every single day off would cost money. So our vacation time would cost us nearly $250 million. I haven't even touched sick time or FMLA. I don't know if you looked at our team picture, but it's filled with young police officers. They're all young. None of them have gray hair like me. That means they're all going to have families soon, and they're going to take FMLA and get 12 weeks a year. That's going to be very, very expensive. Doesn't count injuries. We have an officer out injured from a violent encounter just a few days ago. They get injured. That would cost us a ton of money. We're able to absorb that now because we have a full staff. So our numbers are going up. I think in the month of March, we had increases in almost every major category. We had an increase in arrests of, where's our arrests? Sorry.
While he's looking that up, he didn't really mean 250 million. It was 250,000, but we knew what you meant.
It would be cool if you gave us 250 million. Listen, if you get numbers wrong up here, I can say something wrong. We saw increases in almost every major category, 37% increases in arrests. We had 17,000 calls for service. When I first got here on my very first day, I met with the entire staff and I asked what the major problem is that we're facing, and it was staffing. And we fixed it. Please, I can't look at those kids that we just hired who were so excited to start and tell them, I have to help you find a job somewhere else. They deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Moderator would like to recognize the school department. The speaker will be Dr. Felicia Moscheller, our superintendent of schools.
Do I have any time after that? Okay. Negative. I did write a speech as opposed to going off the top of my head. So, good evening. As a superintendent of schools, it's my responsibility to present a budget that reflects the needs of our children and the values of our community. For the last 2 years, we've worked tirelessly to execute a strategic plan, a roadmap designed to ensure every student in Abington has the academic and emotional resources they need to succeed. The budget for the override is a level service budget. It's not a request for new positions, programs, or activities. It's a request to maintain what we currently have, to continue on to move forward with our strategic plan for the students and families of Abington. If the override is successful, we keep our current programming, our class sizes, and our essential student supports. If the override does not pass, we simply cannot bridge a $1.6 million budget gap through small efficiencies or cutting back on supplies, which we have and will continue to do. But because over 90% of our budget is personnel and fixed or required costs, a gap of this magnitude requires us to make deep, painful reductions. Specifically, a no vote would result in the loss of 28.1 staff positions across the Abington Public Schools. These are not just numbers on a page. These are people who teach and support our students each and every day. To be clear what we stand to lose, at the elementary level, we would lose nearly 7 teaching positions, including 4 classroom teachers, 2 reading specialists, and a school adjustment counselor. These are educators who ensure our youngest learners gain the foundational skills they need to read and write. At the secondary level, we would lose over 8 positions, including classroom teachers and content area specialists. This directly translates to larger class sizes, fewer course offerings, and a reduction in specialized instruction for art, music, wellness, and speech services. Furthermore, we would lose 11 support personnel, including paraprofessionals and tutors. These individuals provide direct one-to-one intervention that keeps our most vulnerable students on track. We would also see a reduction in our custodial and central office staff, impacting the daily operations of our buildings. What does this look like for a student in Abington? It looks like larger class sizes. When classroom teachers and educational supports are removed, individual attention for your child, your grandchild, or your neighbor decreases. We will see a reduction in direct instructional time, meaning more students sitting in study halls simply because we do not have the staff to lead that classroom. We would see a loss in early intervention and mental health services, the safety nets that catch our students from falling behind. My role tonight is to ensure that you understand the direct impact of this decision. A loss of 28 staff members fundamentally changes the character of our schools and our ability to meet the needs of all students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Doctor. Moderator recognizes the Director of our Department of Public Works, Mr. John Stone. Mr. Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The DPW number of $261,094 includes 2 laborers and federally mandated stormwater activities. That's pretty much it. So,
How's that for 2 to 3 minutes?
I don't have a big speech.
And we will, of course, allow any follow-up questions after we're done going through the list. The next on the list is the Council on Aging. Who will be speaking on behalf of the Council on Aging? Oh, of course. I almost called her Amy Barrett again. It is Amy Barrett. Sorry. I was joking before because I was going to call her by her maiden name. Amy, you have the floor.
Thank you.
You're going to adjust that microphone.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Perfect. Hey, everybody. So I'm just going to take a little bit of your time. Thank you for letting me come up here and talk about this. This is really, really important. We just sat down with the town manager and we were going through all the things that these departments, I've had the pleasure of talking with all these department heads over the last month, and truly this is so critical in this community after how far we've all come. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood what's going on down at the Council on Aging. Hi, you guys. I can see everybody from the COA up there. So for us, it's a smaller override, of course, but we have a very small operating budget at the COA. Outside of salaries, our operating budget is very small, and we are primarily funded by grants, state grants, and earmark contract awards. So we would be looking at potentially, we're a 6-person staff up at the COA, so we would be looking at some of the salaries are actually partially funded by the grants that we have. One of our positions is solely funded by the grants that we have. So if we don't pass this override, we are looking at loss of programming, which in the last 3 years we've come so far. There's a lot happening down at the COA if you haven't been down there. So having to cut our programming to retain the staff that we have would be detrimental on every level. So we just are asking that you think about these overrides, personalize these overrides. These are important to every single person here. And I know it's a big ask, but we've all come so far in the last few years. We're just trying to retain what we have and make sure that we're able to provide things moving forward and not go backwards at this point. So ours is kind of, like I said, it's not as big as some of these other ones. It's about $6,500, but it is a huge impact to our formula grant funding. So anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Our 6th presentation will be the Public Library. Moderator would like to recognize the Library Director, Ms. Deborah Grimmett.
Okay, this thing is problematic.
Little help. There you go.
See, the DPW fixes everything.
Thank you very much. Those of you who remember me from Story Hour when you were little or your kids were little will probably realize that I probably don't need the mic. I will not make you do head, shoulders, knees, and toes tonight. That being said, the library number is small. It's $13,964. I'd like to start out by pointing out that according to the state's Division of Local Services, which is part of the Department of Revenue, the library's total budget is 0.93% of the town's budget. So $13,964 is quite a bit when you are looking at a very small budget. The library budget is $672 and change. We will not be losing staffing. I want to make that very clear. We talked about that, the Board of Library Trustees and I, and we opted to go in a different direction. So what we are looking at is the things that all of you enjoy from the library. The cut came from the book budget. Now, libraries have many state rules. The Finance Committee is well aware that I could talk for several hours about the parameters for library state aid. I won't. Beyond saying we have a required amount of money, it's 15% of the total amount of money that the town appropriates that must be spent on materials. The good news is it does not have to come totally from the town budget. So we will be looking at other sources, including library state aid, to make up the funding. When we do that, we kick off a domino effect. We use library state aid for things like technology. Your public library does not have a line for physical technology. If you come into the library and use a computer, it was purchased primarily from state aid. So if we are spending more money on books from state aid, that's less money for technology. We use state aid for programming. We do not have a programming budget. The town does not provide programming other than staffing for librarian salaries who do programming. So we are looking at a domino effect of as we move off into state aid. Another thing to consider is that state aid is precarious. This year's budget includes a slight increase in local aid. We received about $50,000 last year in state aid. We must stay certified to do that, so that means, again, lots of math, but our budget needs to be above a certain amount of money, which is the prior 3 years of our budget added up, divided by 3 and multiplied by 1.025, which is 2.5%. The level funded budget keeps us above that line slightly. So we are not in danger of losing certification with the level funded budget. I want to be clear about that too. That being said, we will need to work with a level funded budget on making sure that we spend appropriately on books and library materials, and that includes ebooks. I see a lot of you that I know are using the library, but you don't come in, and that's because you're borrowing ebooks. Ebooks are not cheap. They're expensive. And we have, last time I checked, on a new bestseller, we currently have 27 people waiting for an ebook. Your library is heavily used. We provide support services for the schools in terms of our children's librarian visiting classes once a month in kindergarten and pre-K. And every class in kindergarten in May, we're looking forward to that, grades 1, 2, 3, and 5 visit the library once a year. So those are the services we provide. Those that we are not looking at cutting school services, but we are going to need to do some work to make up for materials expenditures and for other types of programming. Trustees have not decided whether or not we would have a reduction in hours. If we do, it won't be much because, again, state regulations, for our population size, we have to be open 50 hours a week between Labor Day and Memorial Day. We're open 53 and a half. We don't have a lot to play with. The only other point I want to address is one that I have gotten questions about, and Mr. Moderator, if you will allow me a moment's leeway, library certification is reciprocal. If a library in a neighboring community is decertified, the Board of Library Trustees has a policy: we will not provide services to residents of that community. That has come up with a situation with another town that's having their town meeting tonight, and we are hoping that it does not come to that. I've gotten a lot of questions and a lot of comments because that sounds mean, and it does. It's not fun. Librarians, library trustees never want to deny library services. However, I will point out to you, as an Abington taxpayer, you fund your library. Libraries have networks and borrow things. Why do you want to pay for library services if you are getting absolutely nothing in return? And if a town closes its public library, you will get nothing in return. So that's the reasoning for that. And I did want to mention it because I've gotten questions from several Abington residents who are concerned. And again, it's Abington. Everyone is concerned about their neighbors, and we're concerned about our neighbors to the south. And I hope that things work out there. But my job and the job of the Board of Library Trustees is to protect library services for you.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
Thank you, Deborah. And once again, thank you for your 40 years of service to our community. The last supplemental budget item actually affects several different offices, but they've been put together as one, called Town Hall Offices, for $358,380. We've asked the Town Manager, Michael Maresco, to try to describe the effects of this line item, this budget.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First, I just want to just let folks know, and I know I'm new to town, but very impressed with all of the department heads that we have working here. We have a great working relationship, schools and general government. I can tell you, after spending an inordinate amount of time with them, they're extremely dedicated, extremely hardworking, and all the department heads never ask for anything they don't need. They're very, very careful about how they spend money. I'm here tonight really to talk about services at Town Hall and how those services will be affected. I think if you go into Town Hall and you compare us to some of the other surrounding communities, you'll see that we have a relatively small group of people providing an enormous amount of work and outreach for our residents. So I'm going to just sort of take us through some of the things that will be affected by that $358,380 cut if that's not approved in the override. If the override doesn't pass, the town's employee benefits budget will fall short by about $200,000, leaving Medicare cost increases and new family plan enrollments unfunded. And because retiree premiums increases are not included in this budget, the town faces a significant risk of ending FY27 in a deficit. IT department will be unable to hire an IT assistant. Right now, we have one person, Wayne, who does an incredible job servicing not only general government, DPW, the library, the police, everybody. He's like a one-arm paper hanging running all over town. That leaves no succession plan for him, as the IT director is approaching retirement and putting townwide technology, cybersecurity, and daily support at risk. Veteran services face a cut to veterans' benefits. Adam does an incredible job outreaching to our veterans to make sure that we're able to take care of all of our veterans who their involvement in the military makes us able to have this town meeting here today because of our freedom. So the health department will not have enough funding needed for hazardous waste disposal, jeopardizing safety for our residents, and compliant handling of dangerous materials. And to add to that, I did receive a phone call, as folks know, because I know they had to come before a town meeting a few years ago. The town of Abington's involved with about 4 other communities to share some of those services. And I was notified, I see Chris out in the audience, Chris left and took a job in Rockland. And I was notified that we may be in jeopardy because our budget has been reduced, the Board of Health budget has been reduced so much, we're going to probably end up not being able to participate in sharing of services. I've asked the person that runs that if they could meet with me. They're going to meet with me on Wednesday to see what I can do to salvage that, because that will be an added burden and an added cost on top of this. Treasurer's office will remain understaffed. Payroll, billing, and financial processing will fall behind, putting the town's annual audit at risk. The other affected departments will face cuts to basic operating needs, including supplies, training, equipment, and mandated advertisement for like ZBA hearings, et cetera, reducing their ability to meet state requirements that provide essential services. So hopefully, town meeting would see their way to support the $358,380 for town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maresco. And thank all of you for your patience. Town manager and others thought it might be wise to have those, I was going to say brief presentations, those presentations to summarize where we are so we all have a kind of a baseline of information. We can certainly discuss any one of those in more detail, but the motion on the floor from the Finance Committee is to approve the level service column, which would essentially approve the 7 requested supplemental budgets subject to ratification at the May 16th ballot. And I'm going to ask Kevin, if you could go back one slide to the actual motion. That right there. That's the motion on the floor. Are there any questions, anything to be heard on the motion put forth by the Finance Committee? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
Donna Gendro, 63 Pearl Street. I have a clarifying question. So it's already on the ballot coming up on the 16th. So I'm just curious, quite frankly, every department's important, very important to the town. I can't afford to vote for all of them. So I just have a question. At the ballot, I'm going to vote the way that my family can afford to vote. But here tonight, you're asking me to vote a yes or a no for all of it or none of it. So can I make a motion so that we can vote individually? Or is this like set in stone that we have to just vote yes or no? And if I do say yes tonight, and then on the budget, on the ballot, I say I pick and choose what my family can afford, what happens to those departments? And what if, vice versa, what if I say no tonight because I know I can't fund all of that, and then on the ballot, I pick and choose what I can't afford, what happens?
So good questions.
I can answer.
All right, you
that.
go first, Matt.
So if we vote no on this article tonight, what happens at the ballot essentially doesn't matter. None of them can pass.
There's a caveat to that.
Unless we have another town meeting.
That's the caveat.
After the fact. If items on the ballot pass after we vote no, we could potentially, though there's obviously expense and time for everyone, we could potentially have another. If we vote yes on this, any of them can pass. Not all of them are required to pass. Any of them could pass, any of them could fail. But voting yes on this tonight allows the corresponding vote of yes at the ballot box.
So Donna, if I can also follow up on that. If you vote yes on all of them tonight, that does not obligate you to vote yes on all of them on May 16th.
Correct.
Essentially, what the Finance Committee is proposing by the motion to approve all 7 is to push it to the ballot and let that be the decision. You have your private ballot at the Beaverbrook School from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on that day. As we said, if it all gets approved today, what the deciding factor will be the votes on May 16th.
So that is the deciding vote is at the ballot.
It is.
It's
Now,
not tonight.
to your other point, I don't want to ignore your other point. Can we vote these separately? Yes, there could be a motion put on the floor to vote them separately, and if someone wants to make that motion, we can take that up. But I'd like to hold off on any such motions until we discuss this further, because I don't want to have it linger. But again, if it passes tonight, it has to pass at the ballot. If it doesn't pass tonight, and hypothetically it does pass at the ballot, then that becomes a question for the Board of Selectmen to decide if they want to have a special town meeting to try to go back and get a vote from a town meeting to match what the ballot said. That's a hypothetical. I don't want to confuse people. But typically, or what they're proposing is to let the ballot decide.
Okay.
Am I fair? Am I saying what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, not tonight.
And
May 16th.
Point of clarification, this was anybody that watched our meetings, a hot topic of debate when we figured this out. The ballot election on the 16th is happening regardless of what we vote here tonight. That was not something that we were sure about. The timing of it, in a lot of towns, they time it so that town meeting votes, and then if town meeting votes yes, they go to the ballot. The ballot is happening either way, regardless of what we vote on this article tonight.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Amy Barrett, the Executive Director of the Council on Aging, who's requesting the smallest of the overrides, suggested we should try to personalize these override requests. My wife and I have lived in Abington not quite as long as the moderator, but over 40 years. And when I look at the list of departments and offices, our family has benefited from every one of those departments and offices. We're grateful, for the town of Abington and what it's provided to our family. We raised 4 children here who went to the public schools for the 8th grade and got an excellent education. They've all gone on to college and graduated from college. Our daughter is going on to law school and graduated from law school, all as a result of the foundation. We relied heavily, either professionally or personally, for the fire department and the police department. I was listening to the chief talking about the ambulance. You don't think much about the ambulance until you call 911. Mm-hmm. And every second is so precious in terms of saving a life. The Abington ambulance responded within 6 or 7 minutes and saved my wife's life. So it's very personal to us, and I'm thankful for Amy's suggestion that the same is true with the Abington Fire Department. I proudly wear one of their jackets because I've had the opportunity to work with them off and on over the course of years. But every one of those departments has done an extraordinary job for our family, and I think for most other families in Abington as well. And I understand the point about it's not easy taking on that financial burden in terms of the additional taxes. And I can also appreciate where some people may not be able to afford doing that. We can and we will. We believe in the town of Abington. We support all 7 of the override requests. And I would encourage people to vote in favor of allowing it to get on the ballot. So the full town has the opportunity to fully understand and appreciate the benefits and the cost of the override. So I want to thank the Finance Committee for the presentations they put together tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. I'm going to try to bounce back and forth between the microphones. So this gentleman, if you could state your name and address.
Yes, Tom Bollier, 404 Thayer Street. My question is more about the Prop 2.5 override. More of, is this a permanent thing or is this just a one-time thing? If it is a permanent, how are we going to balance this, or is this just a one-time asking for this?
So the way that Proposition 2.5 works is this is a override to the levy amount. So the way that the town collects taxes, there's a levy amount that we are able to collect up to. You can raise that amount by 2.5% each year. That's where the 2.5 in Prop 2.5 comes from, for those that don't know. The override will change the levy amount. So it is changing that amount going forward. The amount will be higher next year, the year after that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Back over to this microphone. Again, your name and address.
Paul Flaherty, 223 Bellows Circle. I just want to thank the school department as a recipient of special education services for all the services that you provide to individuals with autism, such as myself. But my question is, what would happen if the special education services are removed? Would ABA still have to be contact the North River? Will those services disappear with the budget cuts, or would or would it have to be contracted out? What is going to happen to all of the services that I received when I was a kid to help with my journey?
Thank you. The moderator recognizes the superintendent of schools, Dr. Felicia Moschella.
Thank you. And I can assure you that students who receive special education services will continue to receive special education services.
Thank you, Doctor. Sir.
Yep. Matt Preddy, 189 Hancock Street. I just want to say I do support the override or level service budget. Despite comments made earlier regarding federal funds, the state voted in the millionaire's tax, which raised billions of additional dollars meant for just education and transportation. But based on what I'm hearing today, we're getting less after adjusting for inflation. We should demand more from the State House. Senator Keenan could have spoken earlier, like Rep. Almeida Sullivan did, but he left early. So I'm imploring everybody in this room, both sides of this vote, to call, email, or write Senator Keenan's office for more local aid.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
Christine Smith, 99 Dorsey Street. I have two questions, and I just want to make sure that everybody in this room understands. If we do not pass this second motion, even on the voting, when we go to vote, it means absolutely nothing. It can't go anywhere. So I hope everybody understands that. We have to pass that so we can vote on Saturday, the 16th.
Yes,
My
with
other
one
question.
clarification, Christine. The May 16th vote, the ballots are printed. People have already started voting through the town clerk's office. So May 16th voting will happen regardless of what you do here tonight. To your point, that vote, I don't want to say it becomes irrelevant, but if we don't pass it here and it does pass there, you still don't have the two votes that are required.
Okay.
Okay? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go right ahead.
So my second question is, I know that a lot of people in here are concerned about the impact that it's going to have, and we're only seeing what positive impact will be on all 7 of them. Is there a way to get a breakdown for each one of them so that people can make that educated vote?
Can I ask the town manager, the finance director, if we don't have that right now, can we have that on the website and distribute it before May 16th? So basically, you'd like to know
What each one is going to impact
Right.
us from each line item. It's going to increase $44. It's going to increase
Right.
$170, depending on which one we vote for.
1 second, Miss. Well, the last page, again, is giving you numbers if all 7 pass. So obviously, if all 7 don't pass, it'd be a smaller amount. What, I was going to call you Gordon, what Mrs. Smith is saying is she's wondering if we could publish a breakdown of each line item, like what does $6,000 for the Council on Aging actually mean to your tax bill versus the fire department, the police department number. Mr. Maresco.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, yes, and for the woman that just spoke, we'll get that information up. We'll have it by tomorrow. There's a box that says town meeting. We'll have a chart put in there that will break down each of those 7 categories and what the cost would be.
Thank you, Mr. Maresco. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Christine Walker, 264 Oak Street. My question is, how much will my taxes be when the fire department, DPW, and the VOTEC buildings get added to the override if it passes?
Great question, and there was information that was based on some questions online. I know it was published, and I think they have that answer, that handout. Oh, I think that's, yeah, was that up there, or do you have that? Oh, it was up there, okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Mr. Maresco, or? Go ahead.
Yes, there was a handout, it looked like this, that we had out when you picked up your warrants. This was another handout, and it does do a breakdown. It's based on all 7 overrides being approved. It says assessed value, it was broken down by $500,000 house, a $750,000 house, and a $1 million house. And it talks about, so for the $500,000 house for FY26 tax bill was $6,405. The FY27 levy adjustment of 2.5% increased that to $6,565. And the levy impact, that was a difference of about $160. When you add in, if the all seven passed and town meeting and the ballot box supported the 3.4 million override, that would be $7,060, or an increase override impact if all seven passed for the $500,000 house would be $495. So the total impact, the $495 plus the 2.5%, would be a $655 increase. If you add a DPW fire station initial borrowing, that's $7,310, which was an impact of $250. So in totality for everything, for a $500,000 house, it would be $905 annually. For a $750,000 house, it would be $1,358. And for a $1 million house, it would be $1,810. And of course, pay the taxes by quarter, so you divide that number by 4, and that tells you, how you would be impacted each of those quarters.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, if you don't mind. Yes, would you please state your name and address, please?
Oh my God. Emily Grzycki, 40 Dale Street. Quick comment, we're 2 hours in. Friendly reminder, there are cookies in the lobby. Second, for Chief Bonnie, I just want to clarify something. So you mentioned a couple of numbers, overtime, 500,000 plus 500,000. Your override, noticeably, is less than $1 million. But I know your override budget is not $1 million. So if the override were to fail for your department, where does that $1 million come from? That obviously has an impact on our budget.
Moderator recognizes
Regardless.
Police Chief John Bonney.
I believe that comes in the form of a free cash transfer. So last year we had to do that with about $675,000. Is that correct? So it was transferred from last year when we went over, it was transferred from other budgets into mine.
Sorry, Al.
Chief, if you don't mind not going too far. So you mentioned that if the override doesn't pass, we lose 6 new officers. Out of those 6 new officers, how many did we pay to go to the academy, and what was that price that cost the town already?
So the total cost of sending 6 new officers based on last year's MPTC Academy tuition rates, we spent $81,798. So that would be thrown away.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on the Finance Committee's motion to approve the 7 supplemental budgets subject to the May 16th vote? Yes, ma'am.
Martha Kraft, 175 Damon Road, Abington. I'm a proud citizen too. I have an FYI or whatever. When we pass this year, is it state law, or how does it determine that whatever we pass this year doesn't necessarily have to go into next year's budget to the places that it's going into this year? Do you understand my question?
Yes, great question. Matt?
That is absolutely correct. When we pass this, it increases the general fund and the levy by the amounts that are set. We are telling you on the ballot, these are the things that we are using it for in this year's budget. The total amount that gets approved goes into the next year's budget, goes into the next year's levy limit, just as levy limit. It is not 1.6 million for the school this year, 1.6 million for the school next year, add and add and add.
And to answer your question a little more further, just so we're all clear, that's why we're voting on the level service column. That's what the motion is, because the level service column shows how you're going to spend that money. For example, the fire department supplemental budget is $275,514, and if you go look at the level service budget, you'll see that's exactly what's being added to the fire department. That far right column, which they entitled override, that shows how the numbers are being spread out. The difficulty is that the town hall one, the 358,380, is being sprinkled over a couple of different budgets. So it can get confusing in that column. That's why we had that second handout with what are the total override amounts.
So in next year's budget,
We start all over again.
will, as an example, the fire department, will it have, if it gets passed, next year's budget, will it reflect what they had this year as a budget for their current budget?
Mr. Sala.
So with each of the departments, we, as the department heads are putting together their initial budget, as the finance team with the finance director, the town manager, several of the department heads work towards the budget, and then as the finance committee reviews and has the budgets presented to us, we are comparing previous year's budgets to the budget that is being presented to us. The department heads are using their previous year's numbers to know approximately what things cost. We do look at budgeted amounts versus the actual amounts spent over the past 5+ years sometimes. So we will look at that number. It does not tie it specifically to that. We're not tied into say for example, the 1.6 million for the schools. We're not tied to say the school would necessarily get all of that or would necessarily get only that in the year ahead. But we do look at each of those numbers, both the budgeted and the actual amount spent.
Is that the way that they, I don't know, work the override? Is that something that's a state law or a local law?
That's a state law.
It's a state law that says that the override goes into the general budget the next year.
Yes.
And is there any way to, I mean, I just remember last year and there was something that had been overridden and then it was disappeared. And people wanted to know where it went. And we're doing a lot of overrides this year. And next year there's going to be all these departments that aren't going to have that money in their budget.
And that's why we have town meeting each year, because town meeting each year has to set the budget for each year after the finance committee and all the departments review their budgets from scratch, starting every year. Again, if you'd like to be a member of the finance committee, it's a great way to
Well, I'll talk to you about
learn
that
about
later.
it and to kind of help set the platform for town meeting.
And we do have an opening.
Okay, well, thank you. I just
Thank you.
wanted to make sure that I understood.
Yes, sir.
where
We're going to
the money was.
try to keep moving here, because I know my wife's looking at me, it's almost her bedtime, so we're going to keep moving. Sir, please state your name and address.
Hi, Chris Presampieri, 81 Plymouth Street. I'm going to be voting yes on this override because I don't think we can afford to lose teachers, increase class sizes, or cut services that people rely on. But at the same time, I understand that people are already being squeezed and it's tough getting by right now. I also want to thank the town manager, who's been very clear that this is a revenue problem, not a mismanagement problem. And we're already running a lean budget, and any other cuts will be disastrous for this town. But for me, the biggest issue is the state has the money. We have $8 billion in the state's rainy day fund, and we shouldn't have to pay for a crisis that we didn't create. I've had several productive emails with State Senator Keening, and I appreciate that he actually takes the time to respond to the residents and is working on improving Chapter 70, which deals with education funding. But we need to take action now, using every tool available so towns aren't left on their own to make choices like this. So I'm voting yes to protect our schools and services, but we need the state to step up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perspieri. Mr. Mullen.
Paul Mullen, 139 Richard Road. First, I just want to say I think it's not a good idea that we have each budget separate on the ballot. You know, we're one town. We're all in this. You're going to vote this department or that department. I don't really think that brings everybody together. And so I don't like the menu ballot. But since we do have that, could you explain a little bit further on the ballot? Like, is, you know, a lot of rumors that like the top three will get their overrides and the others won't? Or is each one individually just 50% plus one will get that override and then the others won't?
Each one is individually. The 7 that we've been talking about tonight. They're just like any other ballot where it's a yes or a no. You have to fill in the circle. So you'll vote 7 times, if you so choose. But theoretically, you would go into that ballot box and vote on each of the 7 and decide which ones you want to support or not support. Thank you. Sir.
Chris Coyle, 154 Karen Lane. First off, Mr. Moderator, I'd just like to echo what was just said about the menu style. I know this wasn't the current select board that came up with it. It is what it is. I'd also like to piggyback off of what Mr. Sullivan said way at the start of this conversation, that I think the town it deserves the right to get out there and vote in privacy. So I think it's incumbent upon us to pass this through tonight, to get it to the ballot box where everybody can vote in privacy. We're 2 hours in. This is the most people I've ever seen at town meeting in 10 years. And we're gradually losing them because they have children they have to get to. They have to get their kids to bed. They have to get kids from their babysitter. So I know everybody has personal things that they have feelings against this. I don't know and the questions about the cost are okay, but in terms of how you feel about this, that's what the ballot box would be for. So I don't know, Mr. Moderator, if there's a way to motion to move it to vote.
You can make a motion to move the question, but not, hold on, but not after you've already spoken. So thank you, Mr. Coyle. What I'm going to do, though, there are 2 gentlemen standing. I'm going to let those 2 stand, and then I'm going to shut off debate because I think everybody knows why we're here. And okay? So this gentleman, please state your name and address.
Yeah, Bill Lemonin, 119 Walker Lane. You know, being an Air Force veteran, I'm looking at those 7 things up there, thinking of a C-130 that I used to fly in. You know, you look at each of those parts and think of an engine in an airplane. Say, well, maybe we can not do with number 1. Well, the starboard engine. Or maybe we don't need the flight engineer. Or maybe the crew chief. But you look at that whole airplane and you start to dismantle it, and then what do you have? You know, I look at all those 7, and I look at the town of Abington. You know, I've been here for 35 years. I met my wife at the Frollo School. I've got a lot of ties to the town. I'm proud of this town. And I'm looking at all these people up here saying, we care about this town. So, you know, it's not take one part, take another part. We need to keep the town together, keep that commonality together. So again, I'd like to vote on this. It's Sean, I was going to call a question too.
You're not, but the next guy might, and if he doesn't, I am. Mr. Franey. He can't not talk.
Mike Franey, 726 Washington Street. I don't know how to stop, but I'm terribly aggravated, not with the overrides, because I think they should go. They think they should go. But what I'm agitated with is this process. These people here should have a right to debate the budgets. We don't. We have to go for what a 5-member Board of Selectmen authorized to put on a ballot. And I did call town hall, and they said, if you have a problem with it, call massmoney.com. But it's that
was a joke.
No, it is terribly aggravating. I think town manager explained it that it could vote no here and yes on the ballot, and then would have to go back to the ballot. I don't know what is wrong with having this body vote the budgets. They might not want the full budget. They might want only 3/4. Maybe that's what they'll feel better doing. But all we have an option to do is to vote what was put in front of us, which is fine. I do hope they go, but I just have to express my frustration to this board. I hope we have a different process if we do face this again. And the one question I have is, what happens next year? What's the financial process going to be next year? Are we going to be left out in the lurch again? Or are we going to be all set? What's your town manager's fiscal prediction?
Mr. Maresco, if you'd like to answer that hypothetical. Welcome to Abington, Mr. Maresco.
Thank you. I'll be honest. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm not going to lie to town meeting and say it looks rosy and, you know, we get by this, that's it. These are very precarious times, very challenging times. I'm hopefully optimistic. You know, we don't know what's going to play out in the world and how anything that's happening out there will affect us. I mean, We have to wait and see, but one thing I'm committed to is having an open process. I believe in town meeting, I believe in people participating, and I believe in getting information out there. And, I got here and saw what some of the issues were, and, I sat down with the department heads, we talked about it. Cam Studio was incredible. We got a lot of information out there, talked about the issues, because I think the voter, whether it's town meeting or at the ballot box, needs to be informed. They need to know what the information and what the challenges are. So the only thing I can promise you is that we'll have a very open process. We'll talk. There'll be plenty of information. The select board will be discussing it at their meetings, the financial team. So we'll keep it open and make sure people are always informed.
Thank you, Mr. Maresco. Mr. Shea, he has a microphone in his hand. Joe, hold it up close, please.
To quote the late great Tom Bowden, I move the question.
Mr. Shea moves the question. What are you going to say? As a courtesy to Ms. Ray, who serves on the Finance Committee, do you have a comment you want to make?
I just wanted to respond to the question about next year.
I think we've already done that. Do you mind? I hate that she's going to kill me. All right, go ahead. Make it. Go ahead.
We are going to be in a similar position next year, that we have to get through this year, but we are going to be in a similar position next year. Things aren't going to turn around. We aren't going to magically have, extra money next year either. So we are going to have some really difficult decisions to make, and conversations that we should be having. And I hope that people will plug in and get informed. I know no one wants to hear this, but the trash issue is just overwhelming.
All right.
But it's something, it's stuff we're going to have to talk about. So I just want to say that we do need to get through this year. This was the best way to do it.
Thank you, Mrs. Ray.
Thank you.
Now, when we're shutting off debate, I do want to say and encourage you to stay involved and stay informed, as I said at the very beginning of this meeting. We are thrilled you are here at town meeting, but as you've come to recognize, it's also important that you kind of follow things before to get to town meeting. The Board of Selectmen is the one that determines when we hold town meeting, what's on the warrant, what's on the ballot, and some of the dates. This Board of Selectmen didn't make some of those decisions. It was the prior board, but they will be making it moving forward, so you want to watch their meetings. Same thing with the Finance Committee. They try to go through everything. They're volunteers trying to be your eyes and ears going over everything. So again, I appreciate everyone staying involved. So the Finance Committee has a motion to approve the level service budget column, provided, however, that the amounts authorized herein for each of the departments shown below shall be contingent upon the passage of the corresponding Proposition 2.5 road override ballot question on the May 16, 2026 special election. Understand? So this is step one, but then everybody in the town, not just people here, have to vote on May 16th with your conscience, your pocketbook, what your family, what your needs are, and what's important to you. Nothing further being said on the motion. All those in favor of the Finance Committee's motion to essentially approve all 7 overrides subject to the ballot box election, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Ooh, all right. All those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. Thank you for your time. Again, now listen. I'm going to ask people to please remain if you can. I understand some people have children, but please remain. We have just a few more articles to go, and I guarantee you they're not going to be as long as that one. So Article 14, funding of the capital plan, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer the necessary funds to fund the capital plan. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee moves that the town approve the capital plan as printed in the warrant effective as of May 4th, 2026, and to meet said appropriations, transfer the total sum of $3,804,870 as follows. Free cash, $17,250. Stabilization fund, $886,050. Water retained earnings, $1,740,000. Sewer retained earnings, $1,071,570. Golf retained earnings, $90,000. In order to fund those items listed in this article,
Thank you, Mr. Sala. The Finance Committee makes a motion to approve Article 14 as described in the motion. Are there any questions on the capital plan? Otherwise, this requires at least a 2/3 vote. No questions? All those in favor of the Finance Committee's motion to approve the capital plan as stated in the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It's unanimous. Right? Yeah, it was unanimous. Article 15. Article 15, 16, and 17. I am a volunteer in some of these articles, so I'm going to step down so there's no conflict of interest. And I'd like to welcome up to the podium the esteemed Mr. Richard Testa for his first meeting as our deputy moderator. Mr. Testa.
All right, I will do my best to speak quickly, as I understand. Let's try that. There we go. Article 15 seeks to authorize the town treasurer to borrow the funds necessary to cover the cost of soil remediation for the DPW and fire station project. Mr. Sala?
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article. Sorry, hold on. The Finance Committee moves that the town appropriate the sum of $1.6 million for the financing of the additional costs of the new fire station and DPW building project resulting from increased costs of the testing, sorting, and off-site removal of contaminated soil. And to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Select Board, is authorized to borrow said sum pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, as amended, or any other enabling authority.
Do we have any questions? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. 2/3 vote has it. We're being asked to call for a vote. I would need 7 people to stand to request us to call for a vote. Are there 7 people that would like to stand to request that we call for a vote? Okay. The way that this is going to work is we're going to ask that all that are in favor to stand and remain standing until we ask you to be seated. All of those in favor, please stand. I'm going to ask my counters to go around and to count each of you, and we ask that you remain standing until I ask you to be seated. Chris, can we have you count this front? What would be your left side, please?
Both ways. Steve.
Mr. Wakeland? Who counted the back? Oh, Liz. 5-8. Thank you. All right, please be seated. All right, I would ask our noes to please stand. Yeah. Two. Mr. Wakeland? 11. Liz? 7. And who are we missing? Michelle? 6. All right, the ayes have it with a score of 298 to 30. All right. Article 16 is the annual practice to review and approve the community preservation budget for FY27. Mr. Sala?
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article as presented.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Unanimous. Article 17, to see if the town will authorize the Select Board to accept a gift of a land known as Parcel B off Center Ave. Do we have a map to be shown on the screen? Thank you. Mr. Sala?
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article.
All right. Any questions? Yes.
Moderator, Michael Sullivan, 79 Walker Lane. It says by gift, which suggests it's for free. Then it says, or by eminent domain, which suggests it's not. Is it a gift, or will the town have to pay for the acquisition?
This is by gift. And as you can see on the map up there, referring to this as land is kind of iffy because it's part of the Island Grove Pond. It's actually water, and it's a parcel that helps the town to have control of the whole of the pond. The town has the rest of the pond, and it was being given to the town by the current property owner.
So that we're not going to have to pay for it. It's not going to be an
Correct.
eminent domain
That's
process
correct.
in which
That
you're
is
gonna put
correct, yes.
a value on the land?
Correct.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Any additional questions?
Hi, William Ryan, 118 McKinley Drive. I'd like to make a motion that you strike and/or eminent domain from this article.
The motion says gift. How is it written?
It says purposes
and by gift and/or eminent domain. That's what, kind of piggybacking on Mr. Sullivan's questions. This makes it look optional, and I'd like that taken out of here.
Yeah, we have legal counsel coming.
Yep.
Amy Questle, Town Council, through you, Mr. Moderator. It is, you're looking at the warrant that says that. The motion said only gift, and so that's what it will be. It's, the motion controls. So your amendment is not necessary, in my opinion. That's not the motion. That is from the warrant.
All right, so Rich, would you please, Mr. Testa, would you please repeat the motion you read so we're all on the same page?
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
not what's in the article.
The Article 15 motion, I'm sorry, Article 17 motion is to authorize the Select Board to accept a gift of land shown as Parcel B off Center Ave.
I'm good with that. Thank you.
Rob McCormick, 9 Forsyth Drive. Just out of curiosity, why exactly does the select board need a body of water for municipal purposes?
That's a great question.
It's a fantastic question. Yeah.
We asked the same question.
Hi, I'm Liz Shea, I'm town planner, and this small piece of land was actually part of a site plan that the planning board reviewed. And as part of that site plan, they kept the land near Center Ave. They sold or gave, I'm not sure because it was their land, another slice of land to somebody else, and then they're donating this mostly underwater piece of land to the town. This will now give the town 99.9% control over Island Grove. There is one private property owner left for Island Grove once the town acquires this piece of land.
Okay, I guess.
Oh,
I just,
so-
I guess I'm not necessarily okay with the wording that it's to the select board, meaning that it's kind of being assigned to that office and not that it's being gifted to the town.
They have to accept it. That's how the law works. They have to accept the gift of land. But this would also, we're trying to treat Island Grove every year.
Why wouldn't it just be gifted to the town, or why wouldn't it just be controlled by the town? Why does the select board need to have a
by- I
think
particular
'cause they're
body of
fathers
water?
The Select Board is acting on behalf of the town. So they have to authorize the town to be able to do that.
Okay, then it would still be a gift to the town with the select board being the agent,
That would be accepting the
right?
gift on behalf of.
Not an actual gift to the select board.
Correct, yes.
Okay,
They-
so then it's, the amendment's wrong, or it's not worded very well. Just a,
Yeah. So just as a point of clarification, this is, it is saying that the town will vote to have the select board on behalf of the town acquire the land by gift. So the select board is acting as the representative of the town. Yes, the select board is a representative of the town. When referring to town-owned properties, the select board is in control of them and determines what is surplus, what can be sold, what can't be sold, what can be moved to conservation, things like that, because they are the representatives of the people of the town, legally.
Are there any additional questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Okay, moving on to Article 18, a Veterans Property Tax Exemption for Property Held in Trust. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee motions to approve this article.
Finance Committee makes a motion to approve Article 18. Is there anything to be heard in Article 18? There being no questions, all those in favor, oh, sorry, is there a question? Mr. Cook? Approaching the microphone, name and address, please.
It's not a question. Larry Cook, 1 Granite Street.
I just want to let people know that I have a face that's behind this. I got ripped off when I put my house in a trust. My house is the only thing I'm going to leave to my 6 kids. And I put it in a trust, and I used to get a stipend off of my taxes. And when I put it in a trust, I lost that. And Article 18 would reinstate it to me and all the other disabled veterans. I'm a disabled veteran. Here's my VA disabled card. And I'd appreciate it if people would consider passing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook, and thank you for your service. Yes, sir.
Warren Elliott, 585 Hancock Street, Abington. Been living in Abington. We have lived in Abington since 1971. We have since purchased land on Hancock Street. And at one point in time, the town did give us that exception on our taxes. And when we put it into a trust to protect ourselves, that was taken away from us. If you pass this article, we will regain the trust that the town has given us as having been a veteran.
Yes, sir, and thank you, Mr. Elliott. Thank you for your service. So in short, the town has to accept this law, so veterans who own real estate could get a tax exemption, but if they put it into a trust, the problem was the law looked at it saying, well, you don't now own it. It's not in your name, it's in the trust name. By accepting this law, the town can say, yes, the family trust owns it, but it's you, and you're a veteran, you deserve this. By accepting this article, the town can now do that and give that benefit back to our veterans. The motion is to approve this article. Is there anything else to be heard in Article 18? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those approved say no. Opposed say no. It's unanimous. Thank you for your support. Article 19, transfer of the Caristia property. See if the town will vote to transfer the care and custody of the following 6 parcels known as the Caristia property, as previously owned by the Vineyard Farm Realty Trust, from the Select Board and the tax custodian for tax title purposes to the Conservation Commission for conservation and passive recreation purposes in perpetuity, subject to provisions of General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 8C. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee moves to approve this article.
And there's a picture of it. Some people say it's behind Benedetti's, it's behind Sorrel, yeah, it's behind Sorrel. Wow, I'm dating myself. Jeez. Sorry about that. It is mostly swampland the town owns now. This article seeks to transfer it into control of the conservation, which by doing that, has more restrictions on it. So we need a 2/3 vote to transfer it into control of the conservation to have those basically protections in perpetuity. Are there any questions on Article 19? If not, all those in favor of Article 19, we need a 2/3 vote. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. 2/3 vote passes. Article 20, the acceptance of Gordon Circle as a public way. To see if the town will vote to accept as a public way, street known as Gordon Circle, as laid out by the Select Board. Mr. Sala.
The Finance Committee defers to the Planning Board.
As we do typically with road acceptances or zoning articles, the Finance Committee defers the motion to the Planning Board. Moderator recognizes Ms. Liz Shea, the town planner, on behalf of the Planning Board. Mrs. Liz Shea. Sorry, Joe.
Hi. The Planning Board voted to recommend to pass over this article. They reviewed an opinion from Town Council that states the road is a private road and repairs/wear and tear are the responsibility of the property owners.
Ms. Shea, can I ask you to give a little bit more detail? We do these relatively regularly as new roads are built, but this road has a little different history to it. So if either you or Attorney Questle could give a little bit more of a description, and then I'll recognize you, Mr. Duggan, just 1 second.
Okay.
Mrs. Shea.
I'm going to speed talk my way right through this. So approximately 20 years ago, a developer came in and built Gordon Circle, which is off of Lincoln Street, and he submitted an as-built plan to the planning board and then never came back to get the roadway accepted. We have no bylaw or law that requires that the town chase the developer and have them accept the road. So the road has been unaccepted for 20 years. The developer recently came in last end of the summer. He wanted to get his bond money back. The planning board was holding bond money, which then started this whole process. I asked him to bring the as-built plan in, and the board could have it reviewed, see if there was anything that needed to be done. He came back with the as-built plan and said, oh, it was always my intention to have the roadway accepted. Again, it's 20 years later. He tried to work with the neighbors to sign off on waivers, which is very complicated. I'm not going to get into all of that. And one of the neighbors said yes, and another one said no. And that was how it sort of was left in November. Our reviewing engineer suggested we invite the neighbors in to talk with the developer and see what was going on. And that meeting happened in February. And in February, that neighbor who wasn't going to sign off on the waiver then decided they were going to sign off on the waiver. But at that point in time, the developer decided he didn't want to move forward with the roadway acceptance. So that is kind of what led us here tonight. One of the neighbors took on getting the paperwork filled out to get the roadway accepted. So that's why we are here tonight. In the meantime, in that span of time, we did reach out to town council multiple times to see on different scenarios, getting the roadway accepted, not getting accepted. And that last opinion is what I gave you tonight, was that they said the road is 20 years old and that the town is not responsible for the wear and tear on the road. We did have to, and as part of that, in case anybody asks about the bond was returned to the developer because we can't use the bond money to fix a road. We can only use it to finish a road if it was incomplete, and we would have had to have done that 20 years ago.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. I'd like to recognize Mr. Duggan. Your name and address, Mr. Duggan, a Gordon Circle resident, I believe.
Yeah, Ted Duggan, 241 Lincoln.
Right up to the mic, Ted. Ted, right to the mic.
Ted Duggan, 241 Lincoln Street. I'll try to go as fast as I can here.
Take your time. Take your
I want
time.
to give a little bit of historical context. All right. How's that, everyone?
Better, but stay close to it. There you go.
All right. So we purchased the home in 2008. It was the original home in which the subdivision was actually created. At the time of purchasing the home, we were given no indication that the street was a private way. The street sign didn't display private way, and the street has been plowed and maintained as long as I've occupied the home. We were recently approached by the builder of the 2004 subdivision with a form to grant the street to the town by eminent domain. My neighbors and I were immediately suspicious. He had my address listed incorrectly in the letter and clearly was representing his own best interest. This is actually what Liz referenced when one of the neighbors did not want to sign up for it, although she said they would never would have accepted that form anyway. So it's very confusing representation, in my opinion. Since then, my frustrations with the process have grown considerably, as neither the town nor the builder has taken any accountability. In Chapter 41, Section 81 of Massachusetts General Law, it states that the construction of ways and installation of municipal services be secured by a bond sufficient to secure the performance of the construction of ways and municipal services, and further that the board may require that the applicant specify the time within which the construction will be completed. That clearly did not happen. And further, Liz mentioned that it was not followed up on. You know, that's a choice that the town makes to not follow up on it, right? So we have somewhere between 50 and 100 private ways that are not approved right now, and you will all have the same problems if you live on a private way. You're going to run into the same issues that we're running into right now because of a poor process that should have been followed up and instituted by the town in the first place. So anecdotally, I believe the issue with getting the bond back to the builder was actually related to not properly tying into the adjoining street. Liz mentioned that there's some sort of nuance that you can only fix the street rather than actually, or replace the street rather than actually upgrade it or update it. I don't believe that to be accurate. I'd like to see where that's shown. I've read through as many of the laws that exist within Chapter 41, and I didn't see anything about that. Further, the issue with the street was that it was not tied in, right? So that, in effect, is fixing the street, not actually paving the street, which is another frustration. Section 81 further states that such amount may from time to time be adjusted so that the amount bonded, deposited, or retained continues to reflect the actual expected cost of the work remaining to be completed. That also never happened and was never enforced over the 20 years that this was an issue in the town of Abington. It goes on to say that any such bond may be enforced and any such deposit may be applied by the planning board for the benefit of such city or town upon failure of performance. Clearly, there was a failure of performance, and it doesn't specify that it has to be done for this specific reason that Liz laid out. The town's attorney has indicated that we cannot keep the bond to pay for the necessary repairs or updates, but has not provided any real rationale or any written documentation or reference to Mass General Law or even to the town's own guidelines. Specifically, in the town's own article, Section 200-2, they adopt similar language to Massachusetts general laws, noting that these rules and regulations have been enacted for the purpose of protecting the safety, convenience, and welfare of the inhabitants of the town of Abington. But they completely failed in that to deliver on that with poor administration, lack of follow-through, and execution, and no process in place to protect the inhabitants of the town for the 50 to 100 private roads that are still not accepted. That's a small town for 50 to 100 roads to not be accepted as public ways. In many of those roads, such as Gillespie and others, you're actually making the inhabitants of the town pay for plow services and other maintenance that they should never have to pay for. In my opinion, they're in effect paying for it twice through their taxes, which continue to go up, and they're still not being serviced. So I would request that the bond be retained by the town, given it's the purpose to protect against non-performance, and that the town accepts the street as a public road. Lastly, I informed the town manager that Governor Haley filed the Municipal Empowerment Act last month, which aims to provide cities and towns with more tools to address infrastructure challenges, including the management of public and private ways. Given there are, as I said, and this came directly from Mike Maresco's mouth, that there are close to 100 private roads that are still not accepted in the town of Abington. I hope the town follows through on that, because this is a growing issue, an area for concern, in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Duggan. You can see someone's done their homework tonight. Mr. Duggan. Mr. Duggan, just to clarify, the current motion on the floor is to pass over this article. You mentioned that you'd like to see this approved. So would you like to make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Duggan? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Duggan's making a motion to approve this article. I just need to put that on the floor. We always take the motion, the positive motion first. So even though the planning board made the motion to pass it over, Mr. Duggan's motion to approve is now the motion we're discussing. It would require a 2/3 vote to approve. Just, you can do that later. Is there any other discussion to be had on this Article 20? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Justin Chafe, 54 Hancock Street. And I'm glad the gentleman made the motion, because I was going to make the motion if he didn't, kind of thing. This is my second full year in town. Just even having to hear about the frustration that him and other neighbors on that road have had to go through. And then hearing about the other 100, 200 private ways in town. We could put an end to this foolishness tonight by approving it, let the select board accept it by eminent domain, and just put an end to this 20-year escapade and just get it done once and for all. So I urge everybody to vote yes and approve the warrant as written. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything else to be heard on Article 20 and the motion to approve Article 20 to accept Gordon Circle as a public road? They're being done. This does require a 2/3 vote to approve it. So all those, sorry, there's one other question over to my left. Moderator recognizes Mr. Greg Belazarian. Please state your name and address.
Thank you. Greg Belzarian, 161 Old Farm Road. John, what are the cost implications of, you just talked about 100 ways or even just this one way?
Mr. Belazarian is asking what are the cost implications if we accept this road?
I don't believe there's 100 non-accepted roads in town. We only have 220 total. So that would mean half of them aren't accepted, so I don't...
All right, so let's focus just on Gordon Circle. What?
We already plow Gordon Circle, so it wouldn't really cost us anything. Except, like, when it needs to be paved someday down the line. But we have a long list of roads that need to be paved, so...
Thank you, Mr. Stone, for your honesty. Yes, ma'am.
It's Martha Kraft, 175 Damon Road. I just would like this to be determined whether it's going to be acquired by gift, purchase, or eminent domain.
That's a good question. The motion, Attorney Questle, would this be assumed to be a motion to accept the road by eminent domain? Right. I'd have to ask him to amend the wording. To say
There's
eminent
no-
domain?
There's none money mentioned on this, the article.
Mr. Duggan, to save you the trip up to the microphone, did your motion, did you mean to say, and are you saying, that you'd like to make a motion to accept Gordon Way as a public way and to authorize the select board on behalf of the town of Abington to take it, to take it by eminent domain? Thank you, Mr. Duggan. That was a yes. Just trying to help. Just so everyone knows what we're doing. I'm not trying to sway your vote, but I want to know that it's voted correctly whichever way you go. Is there anything else to be heard on Mr. Duggan's motion to accept the road by eminent domain? If not, all those in favor of Mr. Duggan's motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It is a more than a two-thirds vote. The road is accepted. Oh, I already missed it. There was a thank you slide up there and I wanted to just take a quick minute before we get to the last one. I want to thank Kevin Cogan, who's running the graphics board up here. I appreciate it, Kevin. Oh, here's my little reminders. Kevin Tachi, Matt Lyons, all the guys who are helping out, volunteering. I know there's more. The Finance Committee, which is the hardest workers in town. Jamie Hoy and the custodial. And I want to ask you right now, when you leave here and you take your paperwork, please deposit it in a trash barrel as you leave or bring it home. If you'd like to read it again, do not leave it in the auditorium, please. Please bring it with you. So let's move on to Article 21, the Right to Farm bylaw. To see if the town will vote to amend the town's general bylaws by adding a new bylaw entitled the Right to Farm bylaw. The bylaw is printed in your warrant. The motion by Mr. Sala is?
The Finance Committee moves to pass over this article.
Why? Explain it.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Sorry.
The Finance Committee had a lot of debate on this article. It was not clear to us that the town was prepared to actually enact this. There was no agricultural board or anything set up to monitor, enforce, provide any kind of oversight. Thank you, Emily. Oversight for this particular statute. We felt that this would be something that if the town wanted it, we should be prepared to actually enact it and have it be effective.
Thank you, Mr. Sala. Is there anything to be heard on this motion? Mr. Collins?
Hi, Rick Collins, 74 Orange Street. Have a couple of questions. Maybe somebody can answer. I don't know. My reading of the bylaw says that this only applies to commercial farms. Is that accurate? It says primary purpose of commercial agriculture or accessory thereof.
I'm not one to answer that question. Is there anyone who is a proponent of this bylaw who would want to answer that question? There being no...
Joe Shea is raising his hand.
Mr. Shea, you're not answering that question, right? You're looking at... Well, can you answer his question? He says it's past 10 o'clock. I'm sorry, Rick, I can't answer that, and I don't know if there's anyone here who is supporting this bylaw who can answer that about commercial farms or backyard farms.
So it says right here, here's the language, the benefits and protections of this bylaw are intended to apply exclusively to those commercial, agricultural, and farming operations in the town, and activities in the town. So I'm just curious, do we have any commercial farming operations in this town?
I can answer that.
If you would defer, this young lady says that she could maybe give us some...
I do not...
Name and address, please.
Yep, sorry. Krista Manna, 641 Summer Street. I do not personally own a farm in Abington, but I do know that there are several pieces of property where people do own farms within Abington.
Okay. So here's the point. A lot of this came up from the Board of Health conversation about backyard pets. This does not apply to backyard pets. This does not apply to people who keep chickens for their own use. Does not apply to people who have horses or pigs for their own use and enjoyment. Okay, this is only for commercial operations. So this won't address any of those issues that came up through it, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I cannot confirm nor deny that.
So we have no idea what this actually applies to?
Mr. Coyle from the Board of Selectmen, and then Attorney Questle, if you want to engage.
This is my second Board of Selectmen meeting. It was a previous board that pushed this, okay? And I believe the main person who pushed it is not here tonight.
Oh, okay.
So I would like to defer it and do some more research, because there are a lot of questions, and there was talk about agricultural commissions. So maybe we can come back with a new one, address any questions and concerns. I think the purpose of the article was wrong by the previous members of the board. I think it's a good thing if we do it right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Coyle. Mr. Collins, do you have any follow-up?
Yeah, just the one other note, depending on how people consider this, is that just a reminder, I think what this does is, one of the things it does is take away the ability to have noises, smells, everything considered a nuisance. I don't particularly mind it, care, but when your neighbors start fertilizing their lawn with manure, when they start having pigs and animals that smell, there's no real recourse that you have. But I just want people to be aware of that. Roosters, people, animals start roaming your property. You might like it, you might not, but there's no recourse when we adopt something like this. And I just wanted people to be aware when they make their decision.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. And a reminder, the Finance Committee's motion is to pass over this article. Yes, ma'am, once again.
Krista Manna, 641 Summer Street. I believe that this only applies to properties that are 5 acres and over, according to the state regulations of the right to farm. Is that correct or not?
It's not stated in this bylaw to that effect.
That's why I'm asking, because typically when most right to farms go forward, my understanding is the right to farm typically is restricted to properties that are over 5 acres.
It's up to you.
And then I would like to motion that we actually move to vote on to approve the right to farm.
Okay, so the motion now on the floor to approve this article as it's written will supersede the Finance Committee's motion to pass over the article. We'll get there when it comes time to vote. Mr. Sala, and then to this young lady.
So just real quick to both Mr. Collins, and I apologize for forgetting your name. A lot of the confusion is why we as the Finance Committee recommended to pass this over, because there was an awful lot of confusion, and we felt that it should be cleaned up before it be something that the town chooses to pass.
Thank you, Mr. Sala. Yes, ma'am. Name and address.
Hi, Megan Gundel, 106 Rockland Street. I'm not great with this, but I am commercial ag in town. Right to farm kind of covers more of just our town recognizing the already in place mass ag laws. It doesn't really mean we're adopting a whole lot more than that's what's already standing. Noise, smell, all of our activities are already protected under mass law. Not much will change otherwise for us. Will it protect the small little guys with 6 chickens in a coop? They don't really fall under that. There is changes happening at the mass level with this. I believe it's actually already dropped down to 2 acres, but I'd have to double check on that. I think if you're 2 acres, you have to, again, commercial ag, we have to say that we made money or lost money. We just have to report it. There was big changes supposed to be happening in April. I didn't hear word, so I'm not sure if it has, down to anybody can do commercial ag, doesn't matter your lot size, as long as you report earnings or losses. So again, there's some things to check there, but just being right to farm is just saying that we're a town who recognizes that there's already mass ag laws in place. It does not mean that we are changing and making our own ag regulations.
Thank you very much. Moderator recognizes Attorney Amy Questle from KP Law, who represents not only the town of Abington, but other towns across the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The 5 acres and the 2.5 acres are not, they have nothing to do with right to farm. That has to do with zoning, and that has to do with Chapter 48, Section 3, which then refers you to Chapter 128, Section 1A, which is the definition. So the 5 acres and the 2.5 acres do not have anything to do with this proposed bylaw. And Mr. Collins is correct that this proposed bylaw is only for commercial agriculture. I just wanted to point out that the definition of the word farm shall include any parcel or contiguous parcels of land or water bodies used for the primary purpose of commercial agriculture or accessory thereto. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Questle. Mr. Shea.
We have confusion.
Mr. Shea, you got to use that microphone, sir.
We have confusion on what is involved here. I would suggest that we move, that somebody make a question, to move this question and have it investigated further openly, and then see where we go.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Mr. Shea is advocating that there be more study done on this right to farm bill. Mr. Sullivan is next.
I would second, Mike Sullivan, 79 Walker Lane. I'd second Mr. Shea's motion. I don't know what the definition of agriculture is. I mean, what products could somebody grow in the property next to where you live? I mean, how broad is the term in terms of commercial farming? I think we went through this a couple of years ago in terms of expanding the location for the growing of marijuana, and we rejected it at the town meeting. So I think Mr. Shea is absolutely right. I think we need a lot more information before we decide we're going to adopt a right to farm without knowing exactly what it means.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. So the motion on the floor is to approve the right to farm bylaw as printed. And there is another question in the rear. Mr. Crothers?
Wayne Crothers, 71 Shore Ave. I just like to point out, when I was animal control, the laws are simple. Board of Health is in charge of animals as far as live animals. That's how they did it. Okay? We worked for the Board of Health, we worked for the selectmen, and we worked for the town clerk. Now, fines and fees were done through our offices, okay? And if there's horses or any of that nature, we went out and dealt with them because the state of Massachusetts considered us animal health. And that's what the Board of Health portion was, animal health. And that's how our job was with them. So animal control was animal health, and the Board of Health was in charge of that. So we would have to go out and go to the corrals or go to the barns. We did barn inspections. We did all of it. Now, I don't know where it got lost, but the law is still the law, and it's still the same.
Thank you.
Board of Health is responsible for animal health and animal control and whatnot. It's still the same.
Thank you, Mr. Crothers. Mr. Crothers makes the point that there are existing health regulations regarding farms, use of land, nuisances, smells, and all. And this is another bylaw that would, for lack of a better word, piggyback on that. Mr. Franey, and then we're going to try to wrap things up, people. We have one other gentleman who want to speak. Mr. Franey, go right ahead.
Mike Franey, 726 Washington Street. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to move the question.
Mr. Franey moves the question. Will you defer? Good. All right. There being no other speakers, we don't have to take a vote on whether we're going to move the question. We're just going to go right to the vote. So the motion is to approve the right to farm bylaw as it's printed. If you support that, you would vote aye. If you don't want to approve it, you vote no. Understood? All those in favor of approving the right to farm bylaw as printed in the warrant, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The noes have it. The bylaw does not pass. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you and invite you to Founders Day weekend on June 5th, 6th, and 7th, especially for the big fireworks show. greatly thank you for your attendance at this, at the town meeting. And reminder, part 2 of what you've done tonight is May 16th, Saturday, at the Beaverbrook Elementary School from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. All voters, registered voters in Abington are urged to vote. Thank you very much. The moderator deems this meeting to be adjourned at 10:18 p.m. Thank you.